brought her to my doctor's appointment. That's disrespectful. I asked him, I was like, the day after my son was born, I said, you can come up here and see the baby. He said, oh no, I'm
and what does it matter if I drop him off? I was the only one willing to give him a ride to see his own kid.
That's disrespectful.
I have kids. I know what it's like being a single mom, and I would not be with Jesse if he would not take care of responsibility.
She cheated on me on my birthday.
I did not cheat on you.
She was gone with her ex on my birthday, and then come crawling back after that.
She was gone with Mr. Dallas or somebody else?
Somebody else. There could be more than one person that she's been with.
It's not true, Your Honor.
Ms. Clark says Mr. Newby bailed when she got pregnant because his new girlfriend, Ms. Faulkner, filled his head with doubts. Mr. Newby claims Ms. Clark was seeing someone else, and if he is the dad, wants custody because he thinks she's unfit. And just when it seems messy enough, the emotions explode.
Ms. Clark, you claim that you and the defendant, Mr. Newby, dated for only 3 months before you became pregnant with his baby. You say the relationship was moving forward until he left you for a woman you claim is old enough to be his mother. It is your belief that she is the reason Mr. Newby is denying paternity.
Ms. Clark shares her tough past. Her dad's decided to eliminate himself, her mom's death, and addiction struggles during pregnancy. She admits to using drugs while pregnant, but says jail helped her clean up. The crowd applauds her turnaround, but the drama's far from over. Because, of course, it's paternity court, and it only gets messier.
Your Honor, when I met him, I was in drug use, but, you know, we were together for 3 months. When he left me, I felt abandonment because when I was younger, at 13 years old, my dad had hung himself because of drug use. And then 5 years later, my mother had died when I was 18 years old because of cancer. So when he left me when I was 7 months pregnant, I felt abandonment and pain and agony.
Mr. Newby's suspicions take center stage. He thinks Ms. Clark cheated, and others kept feeding his doubts. He was initially excited about the pregnancy, even showed off the sonogram, but the gossip got to him. Then things take a strange turn involving fake baby photos.
When she first went to jail, she would call me, and yeah, I would talk to her because I was thinking that the baby might possibly be mine. I've had my doubts from the very beginning. She's constantly lied. She's cheated on me with her ex, like, what, 3-4 times?
No, only once. You know, you had doubts about being a father or whatever, then why'd you have this picture taken with me with the first ultrasound and being happy about being a father?
Things get weird when Ms. Clark admits sending Mr. Newby a random baby photo from the internet. Yep, a total internet baby to test if he cared. It only made Mr. Newby more suspicious. And that's not the end. Next up, it's all about hospital visits and boundary disputes.
Well, it was a picture of the internet. It sent him the picture, but I was just upset because
why
he had left me to see if he would like show any interest of seeing his son because he wasn't doing that.
You showed him a picture of a fake baby as if the baby had born.
Yeah,
yes.
A newborn baby. I got a picture on my cell phone. While I was at work, I showed my manager and ran home.
Hospital drama kicks off as Ms. Clark accuses Mr. Newby of showing up to appointments with Ms. Faulkner. She calls it disrespectful, while Ms. Faulkner claims she was just giving a ride. Clearly, no one's on the same page, and now they're arguing about who pays for what.
He brought her to my doctor's appointment. That's disrespectful. I asked him, I was like, the day after my son was born, I said, you can come up here and see the baby. He said, oh no, I'm
and what does it matter if I drop him off? I was the only one willing to give him a ride to see his own kid.
That's disrespectful.
I have kids. I know what it's like being a single mom, and I would not be with Jesse if he would not take care of responsibility.
Ms. Clark accuses Mr. Newby of barely helping with the baby. He says he tried, but Ms. Clark always refused anything from Ms. Faulkner. Judge Lake jumps in, urging Mr. Newby to take more responsibility. But you can tell this fight is far from over, especially as the fitness to raise the child gets questioned.
I would call him and ask him if he can watch him or whatever, if he wants to see him. He said, I can't right now.
That is not true.
I want to take care of the baby. I tried taking care of the baby. You would not.
And when we bought stuff for the baby, she refused. She said, because Joanne got it, I don't want it. Because I bought it. She did not want to receive the gifts. And she did not want to want it.
But it's not your responsibility. It's his.
Our money is combined.
Yeah, the money.
I don't care.
Mr. Newby claims Ms. Clark is unfit because she used drugs while pregnant. Judge Lake points out Ms. Clark's efforts to get clean. And even Mr. Newby admits she's improved. It's all leading up to the big moment. The DNA results are about to be revealed.
How are you going to be 7 months pregnant and then stick a needle into both of your guys' bodies?
But I
like that baby had to go through that for no reason. She didn't even give him a chance.
Ms. Clark admitted that was an absolute irresponsible action, which was inexcusable. I heard her say that. Mr. Newby, you are the father.
Ms. Holshoe storms into court claiming her mom had a fling with the defendant's dad, making her their sister. The Howard sisters are furious and call her a liar. Ms. Holshoe points out her name in the dad's obituary, and the drama levels up with more accusations.
Ms. Holshoe, you claim your mother had an affair with the defendant's father, and today you're in court to prove that he is your biological father. Ms. Howard, you and your sisters say Ms. Holshoe is a delusional troublemaker whose promiscuous mother destroyed your family and ruined your home.
Ms. Holshoe says she has terminal cancer and wants closure on her dad. She heard about her real dad when her drunk stepdad spilled the tea during a fight. Her mom confirmed it, and things got messy from there.
I've recently learned that I have terminal cancer, and I'd like to have family history, and I also, which I know they don't want to, but I would also like to, because my stepdad was drunk, he was fighting with my mother, and he said, well, who do you think your father is? And so after that, my mother told me. She took me and introduced me to DL. We had a relationship from then on.
The Howard sisters admit their dad once mentioned Ms. Holshoe might be their sister, but brush it off, claiming her mom slept around. The courtroom erupts into a messy argument, feeling like a Thanksgiving dinner gone bad.
One time when I was 19 years old, my dad, he was in from California. My parents were already divorced. We were in from California. He had us all meet him out at a country bar. We showed up, that and her mother was there. And after about a half hour, we had some drinks and stuff, and my dad
I don't even remember that, and she's lying, and I'm not a that. If anybody's a that, look over there.
Whatever the case may be.
The sisters talk about their dads cheating, but refuse to believe Ms. Holshoe. They share details from their lives, like detectives solving a case they want to ignore, throwing in some mean comments about her mom.
I was in California living with my father. We had packed up our things and moved out because my father had gone to at the bar where her mother was working and caught her cheating on him. Probably has no idea who any of her children belong to.
It's not my fault you guys don't want to know me. It's not my fault that your dad had sex with my mother, and I'm a product of that.
Ms. Holshoe says she was invited to a Howard family reunion by Mr. Howard, but the sisters lose it, calling her a liar. She claims they chased her out, which the sisters deny. It's turning into a real soap opera.
Your Honor, Mr. Howard invited me to a Howard family reunion.
Lies.
It was at Guilford Lake.
That is a total lie.
How does she know where the reunion is if she was invited or someone didn't tell her?
Your Honor, I have been to every single family reunion.
And I have been
she
to...
has never been.
Is it held at that location?
I'm sure that she has this information because she's gone from my other sister.
Kelly Howard says she believes Ms. Holshoe because their dad literally introduced her as her sister. Everyone is left wondering if their dad ever thought this situation would end well.
Well, we were out one day, and I was about 19, and he said that he wanted me to meet one of his girlfriends. Met several of them before. So we go to Lynn's mother. He introduces me to her as my sister. We just went about our way after that, and I just took it as for what it was and just...
You never questioned it?
No. Our dad never lied to us.
Judge Lake reveals the DNA results.
That the probability of half-siblingship between Diana Howard and Misty Lynn Holshoe is 98.1%.
Two moms, Miss Taylor and Miss Johnson, team up against Mr. Barber, accusing him of being a deadbeat dad. They want over $7,000 in child support, and they're not holding back. This is just the start of the chaos. Things are about to get messy.
Miss Taylor and Miss Johnson, you both claim that you were pregnant at the same time with the defendant, Mr. Barber's children.
Yes, Your Honor.
You argue that he has not been a father to your kids and refuses to support them, but takes care of his other child.
Mr. Barber blames the moms for wanting too much money and causing drama. Miss Taylor claims he only cares about one kid because he's still sneaking around with that mom. It's like a soap opera, and the drama is just heating up.
The only reason you can't support the children you have with Miss Taylor and Miss Johnson is because they ask for too much money. They create too much drama. Why do you believe he supports his other child and not yours?
I believe that he supports his other child because he's still sleeping with his other child's mother.
No, we're not.
He had 3 women pregnant at the same time. He is a dog.
Mr. Barber's phone rings in court, making everyone laugh while the judge glares. He admits being the dad, but denies being a bad one, which makes Miss Taylor snap. This moment is funny, awkward, and just the tip of the drama iceberg.
What we aren't gonna do is talk at the same time. Mr. Barber, is somebody calling you? Jerome, answer it and see if it's a woman. They probably never call back again if they find out paternity court.
Probably would.
Miss Taylor says she gave birth alone, while Mr. Barber flirted on his phone. He blames work, but she's not buying it. This is just leading to more tension.
I had my daughter by myself. My mother's deceased. My family could not get there. I called him and told him that I was being induced. He stayed for 24 hours. You know, when you get induced, you never know when the baby's gonna come. He stayed for the first 24 hours and he left. I called him and I said, I'm 10 centimeters, I'm getting ready to push. He didn't come.
Judge Lake scolds everyone for all the shouting, saying it hurts the kids. She compares their constant fighting to nails on a chalkboard. The moms roll their eyes, and Mr. Barber tries to act calm. Let's see if anyone steps up.
But when you two go speak, I took a moment to just observe you. You go to not level 10, level 20 in a matter of 2 seconds, and there's no understanding, no communication. And all I'm sitting and thinking is, I am an adult judge of this court, used to watching people in dispute yell and scream. I can only imagine.
Mr. Barber says he grew up in group homes and didn't learn to care for others. He now works as an engineer and wants to do better. The judge isn't convinced. Excuses don't pay for diapers.
A lot myself. I was still a kid. We were having kids. I've been in group homes since I was 12 years old. All I know how to do is take care of myself for the better part of my children. And I was doing music. I've been doing music since I was 12 years old. Continued to do music. I went to school. I got a degree so I could be able to take care of my children. One thing my father always told me is if you can't take care of yourself, how are you going to take care of children? And I have 3. I don't have 1.
Miss Taylor says she's only gotten 2 packs of diapers in 5 years. Miss Johnson says Mr. Barber barely bought 3 outfits for her son. And there's more. A 3rd baby mama is about to join.
He bought my daughter 2 packs of diapers.
And how old is your daughter?
My daughter is 5 years old.
I never got 2 packs. I never got a pack.
And Miss Johnson, you saying you never got...
He never bought my son no diapers. I made do whatever I had to do to get my son diapers. He bought my son 3 pairs of shoes and 3 outfits.
Miss Cooper, the 3rd mom, actually defends Mr. Barber, calling the others bitter. She claims he's great with her kid. The room gets awkward, but the financial drama isn't over.
Do you feel like he treats your child differently?
No, I don't. I feel like he loves all his kids the same. I just feel like me and him have came to a common ground to co-parent. Our relationship and what we've been through, none of that matters.
Is he good?
Yes, he is. Very well.
Love.
She's a daddy's girl. She only wants to be with him.
Judge Lake awards Miss Taylor $3,608 and Miss Johnson $3,180. She tells Mr. Barber being a dad is more than just photo ops. It's like a game show where nobody wins.
You know, it is this court's opinion that Miss Taylor is in fact entitled to $3,608 in back child care expenses. Did you also bring receipts and information for the court regarding your claim?
And I also have a text message between me and Mr. Barber where he stood my son up on his 5th birthday.
Judge Lake gives Mr. Barber a reality check. Time to grow up and stop letting his kids down. The moms hope he takes it seriously. It ends on a hopeful note, but this drama feels far from over.
When you got these women pregnant, you didn't know who you were. But now you said you found yourself. You know what you're passionate about. Learn to be an engineer. And when you have a client, you don't want to let the client down. You don't want to let your child. You have to now step up to the plate and be that father that you want to be.
Wow, this episode kicks off with fireworks. Miss Jackson is in court to face her husband's mistress and prove the mistress's baby isn't her husband's. Oh, and she's ready to end her marriage if she's wrong. Yep, it's going to be one of those cases. Let's go. Discovery of the affair.
Miss Jackson, you say you're here to confront your husband's mistress and to prove her 1-month-old daughter, Kiesha, is not his biological daughter.
Your Honor.
Furthermore, you say you learned today that the child is in fact your husband's. Your marriage is over.
That's right, Your Honor.
Things get real when Miss Jackson tells the story of how she found out her husband was sneaking around. Oh, but Miss Jackson wasn't having it. This was just the warm-up round of the drama.
I got an epiphany. Call it woman's intuition, whatever you want. Well, I went to my husband's job. It was about 9:30 or 10:30 at night. He approached the car. We talked for a few minutes. To end our conversation, I told him, feel as though there's something going on that you hadn't told me, because he had been distant in the days prior to. I had put him out.
The mistress, Miss Lipscomb, tries to explain herself. And her story, it's wild. She says Mr. Jackson told her he wasn't married, even though he was rocking a wedding ring. But instead of smelling the lies, she bought his excuse. It's about to get even messier, so stick around.
When she came to their job, why did she come up there or why didn't she come up there? I've never seen her a day in my life. I knew her voice. I was sitting up, Mr. Jackson, and she calls and the kids calls. That's how I know her voice so high pitched. You can hear her through the phone. My BM, which is my baby mother. BM does not spell wife. Wife is spelled W-I-F.
Oh, she
not
can spell,
BM.
Your Honor. Wow.
Imagine catching your husband's mistress chilling in a hotel room you're paying for. Yeah, That happened. Miss Jackson recalls finding Miss Lipscomb at the hotel and letting her know exactly who the boss is. Spoiler alert, this showdown gets even crazier when Mr. Jackson shows up later.
Maybe a week after that, I was talking to, because my husband went to jail that night, Your Honor. I was angry enough. It was an impulsive decision, and I understand it was not the right decision, Your Honor, because I knew that he had some legal issues going on in another state. The next morning, I go to the room, find Miss Lipscomb laying in the bed crying.
I told you I was going back to the room, talking to me.
Oh, here comes Mr. Jackson, looking like he just walked into a tornado. He admits he never told Miss Lipscomb he was married, saying, "She didn't ask." Really? That's the excuse? The judge isn't buying it, and honestly, neither are we. What happens next is gold. Miss Jackson's generosity.
Ms. Lipscomb says she had no idea you had a wife.
No, she didn't, because I never mentioned it to her, Your Honor.
So that part of her statement is true. You never told her you were married.
No, Your Honor.
When Miss Lipscomb first started talking, I didn't believe for 1 minute that she didn't really know you were married, and confirmed the lie.
Oh, I didn't tell her no lie. I just never mention it to her. She never asked.
You think Miss Jackson would be done, right? Nope. She actually bought baby stuff for the mistress's kid because she felt bad. She thought the drama was over, but surprise, Miss Lipscomb admits the affair never really stopped. This mess is nowhere near cleaned up.
Not only have we had conversations, before I didn't deny the child, I went and bought over $900 and some worth of stuff for her baby. Like I told her, from the conversation, Your Honor, she seemed really distraught. She said that, "I don't know how it feels not to know who your child's father is, Your Honor. Whether it's my husband's child or not, out of the kindness of my heart, Your Honor, I understand that we all have shortcomings."
Just when you think it's bad enough, Miss Jackson drops another bomb. Miss Lipscomb might have had another boyfriend during all this. She even brings receipts, aka Facebook posts, to prove it. Let's just say, things are starting to feel more like a soap opera in real life. Hang tight.
I found out when I was in jail, because I guess the beginning of the year, her birthday time, she got sick and went to the hospital. And my wife told me that she said she was pregnant then.
On her Facebook page, Your Honor, she had listed that she was going to the hospital. At that time, Your Honor, she was with another man, and I have evidence.
This piece of evidence shows that she was also dealing with another man.
Yes, Your Honor.
Oh, but Mr. Jackson didn't just sign the birth certificate. He was at the hospital. He put this baby on his wife's military benefits too. Like, that's not a big deal. The audacity, off the charts. And you already know, Miss Jackson is not about to let that slide.
He didn't cut the cord, but he was there.
So he did come for the birth?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson, did you sign the birth certificate?
Yes.
You did?
So if it's not his child, why would he sign the birth certificate? Even more to speak on her
behalf.
behalf.
Mr. Jackson, you've acknowledged paternity.
Yes.
Your Honor, that's why the baby was placed on my benefit.
The baby is what?
Anything for my
Placed on my
child.
benefit, Your Honor. I also have proof of that.
At this point, the whole courtroom is on edge as these two women go back and forth like it's the finals in a shouting competition. Miss Lipscomb says Miss Jackson is just using the baby as a reason to divorce Mr. Jackson. The judge steps in to say, enough already, but trust me, the next part is going to leave you shook.
Oh, I just believe she wants to know if this is his child so she can divorce him. Don't use my child as a crutch. If you want to divorce him, divorce him. Don't use my child as a crutch. This woman is delusional. The whole time I was pregnant,
I'm delusional,
she swore
but I'm
that
married
she was
and you're
pregnant.
with my husband.
She's been pregnant 4 times since I have had my daughter.
Right here, that telling you that I'm pregnant now. That's the part that she hadn't admitted.
I told you every time.
The moment everyone's been waiting for. The DNA test comes back, and boom.
When it comes to 1-month-old Keasia Jackson, Mr. Jackson, you are not the father.
This kicks off like a reality show where nobody's winning. Mr. Burridge says he's been played and wants his name off the birth certificate, plus his money back for childcare. Mrs. Stephanies is fed up, saying Burridge was a great dad until now. Things are already wild, but they're about to get wilder.
Mr. Barrage, you've dragged Miss Stephens to court because you say you're being played for a fool. And when today's DNA results prove that you are not her daughter, father, you demand that your name be removed from her birth certificate and you be reimbursed for the past 8 months of child care expenses.
Both had side flings. Welcome to the world's messiest love triangle. Burridge admits he had a girlfriend while seeing Miss Stephanies, who also had another guy. Miss Stephanie says Burridge knew what he was getting into, but things turned awkward real fast. If you thought this was messy, just wait, there's more.
I also had another woman on the side, and you had another guy on the side.
And I never knew it was a girlfriend. We were together every day since the first day we started hanging out.
No.
But when I sent you the pregnancy test and told you I was pregnant, you said what? I'm gonna be in her life. That's my child. You was there there, you signed the birth certificate, cut the umbilical cord. I didn't force you to do anything. You chose to do that willingly because you felt obviously that she was your child.
That's like a soap opera crossed with a bad rom-com. Burrage claims he was trapped into this baby, saying she wanted him away from his girlfriend. Ms. Stephanie says he chose to be there because he liked how she treated her kids. The judge looks like she needs a lie detector test for this one. But hey, it's just getting started.
That's my child. I'm gonna be in his or her life. He's saying that I was just something to do, but that was never my impression. Me and Fernando, we was together all the time. It wasn't no one night stand. We was together consistently every day. I didn't think we were in a relationship, but I thought it was more because I knew that my intentions was to get more than what it was.
And you also said this to me, talking like you gonna try to take me away from my girl. You know what I'm saying? Trying to set me up, trying to trap me.
This is nosy neighbor heaven. Gossip galore. Burrage says neighbors told him Stephanie's was seeing half the block, making him question if the baby was his. He even points out the baby's complexion is too different. Ms. Stephanie's rolls her eyes like she's had enough of this nonsense. The judge starts piecing things together, but it only gets weirder.
I didn't know how many guys she slept with. Guys coming out the blue in the neighborhood while I stay, just come out the blue. I hit that, I hit that.
And he's going off what other people saying. Ask him, does he know anything that's for sure? Not what people are saying.
Do you know for sure? Do you have any proof of this?
I have proof, Your Honor. For one, Your Honor, I don't have light blue, green, hazel eyes, Your Honor. That's for one.
The other guy has light eyes.
Yes, Your Honor.
This part is either touching or hilarious. Burrage shares he didn't have a dad growing up and didn't want the same for Phelan, but now feels foolish. Ms. Stephanie says she thought Burrage was her ride or die, now feels humiliated. Just when things seem settled, bam, a twist.
I really don't know who my father is, because my name ain't on the birth certificate other than what my mother tell me, but ain't no name on the birth certificate. On my generation, my close in that family all the way to like 1874. And like far as our genetic code, we got big eyes, big nose, big lip. That baby got light eyes, little nose.
From you, Mr. Barrage, she's my child also. She can have my genes.
Things just got crazier. Ms. Stephanie's reveals she's 5 months pregnant with Burrage's baby. Burrage says she trapped him again, while she insists otherwise. The judge looks like she could use a coffee break, and honestly, same. But the drama isn't over yet.
My biological mom wasn't in my life, nor my father. I didn't meet him till I was 12. And ain't no telling if that's my biological father. Why would I put my children? Phelan is my 5th child. I'm pregnant again by Mr. Barrage. And what, to go through the same thing? I'm 5 months pregnant as we speak now.
She trapped me, Your Honor. She trapped me with this one.
Things get awkward fast. Stephanie's admits she was with another guy, but says it ended before Phelan was conceived. Burrage isn't buying it, thinking he might not be the only possible dad. The audience practically yells at their TVs, trying to solve this like a crime drama. The tension here could power a whole city.
Have you ever had a sexual relationship with this other guy? So you have. What he's saying is you've had a sexual relationship with this guy. For some reason, you're still around him all the time.
Because
unprotected sex, Your Honor.
Was it unprotected or protected sex?
Unprotected. When I met Mr. Barrage, that relationship, no, not at the same time.
It might be another man, baby.
Not
you know
at
they
the
got a
same
name
time.
for themselves.
This had everyone rolling their eyes. Burrage says Stephanie's put voodoo on him, earning a look from the judge like, really? The judge points out Burrage signed the birth certificate and played dad. Stephanie says she wanted more than just a fling, and now she feels tossed aside. Finally, the moment of truth is near.
Both of you have stood in court today and testified that you feel like fools.
Yes, Your Honor. A special type of food, though, Your Honor.
What kind?
She put some type of voodoo on me or something, Your Honor.
Acting like you don't care nothing about this girl. You are wasting my time. I'm trying to get to this paternity issue, and you trying to act like you don't care nothing about this girl. Hit it and quit it girl that you don't care nothing about.
The DNA results are the grand finale.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Barrage, you are her father.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Judge Lake kicks off Butterfield versus Bracknell Dallas, a messy paternity case about baby Kara. Butterfield claims he's the father, while Bracknell insists it's her fiancé Dallas. You can already feel the chaos brewing.
Mr. Butterfield, you've summoned your ex-girlfriend, Ms. Bracknell, to paternity court to prove that you are the father of her 2-month-old daughter, Kara. You say she's denying you are Kara's dad because she's worried her family will be torn apart when the results prove you are the father.
Yes, Your Honor.
Butterfield says he and Bracknell planned for a baby, and during their breakup, she mentioned a gift. He wonders if that meant Kara feeling left out of her birth. The drama's just getting started.
Me and Mrs. Bracknell had a residence together for almost a year. We did try to have a baby together before. She had told me when we were breaking up, she said, "Thank you for the gift." And I said, "What gift was that?"
And then when you found that out, you thought to yourself, was that the gift?
The baby?
Yeah, you thought
my daughter, yes.
Bracknell says she found out about the pregnancy months after leaving Butterfield. She thinks the baby looks like her other kids with Dallas, but Dallas is ready to present some evidence next.
When
When did you find out you were pregnant?
Honestly, I didn't find out until, I'd say 3 months after I did move out of his house. I was having irregular periods, so I just let it go for a minute. I'm not really a doctor person.
So what you're saying is, when this relationship ended, you didn't know you were pregnant?
No.
But once you found out you were pregnant...
How could you not? You're not having periods.
Dallas brings out a calendar, claiming Bracknell moved in with him when Kara was conceived. Butterfield claps back, insisting he was still seeing her. The mystery deepens.
So this calendar outlines the date when the relationship with Mr. Butterfield and Ms. Bracknell. Kara was conceived in mid-September, and she was born in June. And she ended the relationship with Mr. Butterfield at the end of August. There's no way Mr. Butterfield is Kara's biological father.
Yes, ma'am. Dallas declares Kara his daughter, no matter the DNA results. Butterfield insists he'll step in if she's his. The room is tense, with emotions ready to burst.
Have you ever considered how you would react if, in fact, Kara is not your biological child?
You know what, Your Honor? I'm gonna love her the same. She's gonna be my little daughter. I'm gonna raise her my life. Nothing's gonna change. I love her to death, just like I do now. He's actually made our family stronger.
That's good. I'm not trying to get her back. I'm just trying to be in my daughter's life.
No, you just have a...
Butterfield found out about Kara via a Facebook post with someone else holding her. He accuses Bracknell of hiding it, but she denies it. The back and forth doesn't seem to end.
The only time that I actually ever found out that you guys were even pregnant, that's a Facebook post that they posted on that the baby was even. That's before I even knew.
It says, this little girl is ready.
Yep, that little girl is ready right there. And then I also, the only thing I got was a text message from of a friend saying of her sister holding my daughter.
Butterfield accuses Bracknell of cheating and even leaving him on his birthday. She denies everything. The tension rises as they prepare for the next round of accusations.
She cheated on me on my birthday.
I did not cheat on you.
She was gone with her ex on my birthday and then come crawling back after that.
She was gone with Mr. Dallas or somebody else?
Somebody else. There could be more than one person that she's been with.
It's not true, Your Honor.
When I found out about it, I messaged her mom, let him know I was coming. I blocked, obviously, on their
That you were coming? Let's explain that text message.
You guys even got together.
Butterfield insists Kara is his, pointing out physical similarities. Bracknell counters, saying Kara resembles Dallas and her other kids. Everyone's waiting for the DNA test to decide.
She looks more like me. Even her own family says it. They look like me. She's got my nose, she's got my lips, she's got my brown hair. All her boys are blonde.
Yep, and they've gone brown the older they get.
Exactly.
So you are convinced, Mr. Butterfield, this is your daughter?
Oh, I'm 100% convinced.
Judge Lake asks if Dallas would stay if Kara isn't his, and he says yes without hesitation. His devotion is clear, but the DNA results will soon shake everyone.
So therefore, if in fact Kara is not your biological child, will you be able to continue this relationship?
Oh, yeah.
You will?
Yep.
Okay. It has been determined by this court, Mr. Butterfield.
What did I tell you?
She was still sleeping with this man after Hannah was born.
Yes, I was. Because we decided that we wasn't going to be together. Been on and off for 5 years.
The guy, he just slept with her 2 weeks ago. My bed. She didn't go to his house. She didn't go to a hotel. It was the bed that we shared.
She leave the house every time. It's always when a private car come or it's after 3 a.m. That's the only time he able to get away from his wife, so-called.
What?
That's it.
How are you getting up at 3 a.m. and leaving the house?
So there was no trust. I didn't trust him. He didn't trust me.
I get that you all were in a bad place in your relationship, but what does trust have to do with you playing Wonder Woman and jumping out the window?
This case kicks off wild. Mr. Patrick says he might not be the dad of Ms. Pence's twins because she cheated with a guy who crashed at their place. Ms. Pence insists Mr. Patrick is the dad, and the DNA will prove it. Drama, confusion, and awkwardness await.
Mr. Patrick, you say 5 years ago you made a huge mistake by opening your doors to a stranger who needed a place to stay because that man betrayed you and slept with your girlfriend, Ms. Pence. Today, you're here to prove that you didn't father Pence's fraternal twins, 4-year-olds Larry and Carrie, and the other man did.
Mr. Patrick explains how they let a random guy stay over, but he left suddenly. Soon after, Ms. Pence disappeared and came back the next day looking like a mess, then confessed she slept with the guy. The whole situation, peak drama.
Well, he stayed maybe 5 or 6 days, and he up and moved out. And I questioned her. I said, wonder why he just didn't left. Is it because me and you argue a lot? You know, time goes on. Me and her sat around and had a few drinks, and she up and leaves and goes across the street to the neighbor. 10:30 runs around. 2, 3 o'clock comes around in the morning. Still no Miss Pence. Well, she doesn't show up until the next day, about 10:30 in the morning.
Ms. Pence says she cheated because Mr. Patrick kept accusing her of it. She regrets it, but things are messy, especially since she actually went looking for the guy afterward. This excuse has "worst mistake of my life" written all over it.
Larry had continuously, from day one, accused me of cheating constantly. I had never slept with anyone else before that night.
You're so flirtatious.
I was that's how I was brought up. I'm constantly calling people honey and babe.
What did I tell you?
I'm from the South. That's how I was raised. It has nothing to do with that. I never slept with anyone before that.
Ms. Pence pulls out a calendar to prove the twins' conception lines up with Mr. Patrick, not the other guy. Mr. Patrick's not buying it, and her timeline doesn't help. It's an awkward back and forth that drags the kids into the mess.
On November 2nd, Your Honor, is the date that me and Mr. Patrick had sex, and then on August 7th is the date that the twins were born.
That don't mean that. That's a 5-day window.
It does. The doctor had said that the twins were conceived right around the 2nd of November. The twins were born almost completely full term, and if you count those dates back, it only leads to Mr. Patrick.
Mr. Patrick doubts Larry is his because the kid's rambunctious and might have ADHD. He claims it doesn't run in his family, but a psychiatrist explains ADHD is complicated. Spoiler alert, Mr. Patrick isn't convinced.
I think he's ADHD or something like that. You know what I mean? He doesn't listen. He's rambunctious.
He's a little boy.
I understand
Mr.
he's
Patrick.
a little boy, and I hope he grows out of it someday, but I believe he's ADHD or
There's
something.
nothing wrong with
it.
And so-
Doesn't run in my family.
How do you
doesn't
know
run in
that
her-
doesn't
Well,
run
I've
in
been
your
with
family?
you for 10 years, honey.
It doesn't matter. You don't know every single thing about your family history.
Living together hasn't been fun. Constant fighting and no intimacy for months. Ms. Pence hopes the DNA test will end the drama and bring some peace. But before that, there's a lie detector test that throws a wrench in the plan.
We haven't even had sex in probably the past 4 months. It's just a constant argument from the time that I get up until the time that I go to bed, pretty much. It's constant argument.
And so that's why, Mr. Patrick, you asked this court for a lie detector test because you don't believe Ms. Pence is being truthful with you as to the true nature of the relationship with this other gentleman.
No.
Lie detector time, and Ms. Pence gets caught lying about the number of times she cheated. Mr. Patrick's like, "I knew it," while Ms. Pence blames nerves. This doesn't make things easier before the DNA results drop.
Ms. Pence, you met with a licensed polygraph examiner. During the last 10 years of your relationship with Mr. Patrick, have you had sexual contact with any other man other than the man whom you admitted to cheating with? You said no. The lie detector determined you were being deceptive.
How is that?
Big moment.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Patrick, you are the father.
I told you that you was the father. I told you.
Right from the start, there's drama. Judge Lake introduces Ms. Hendricks, who says Mr. Pacheco bailed on their relationship because he doubts he's baby Isaiah's dad. Mr. Pacheco heard someone else might be the father, and now he's unsure. Trust me, this gets crazier by the second. Buckle up.
Ms. Hendricks, you were once in a committed relationship with the defendant, Mr. Pacheco. Now you say the doubts about your 6-month-old son Isaiah's paternity has destroyed your relationship, torn the rest of your family apart.
Yes, Your Honor.
They fall in love, move in within months, and then Ms. Hendricks' brother starts a rumor that her ex might be the father. She insists it's not true, but the drama's just getting started. Mr. Pacheco isn't buying it and adds his own doubts into the mix.
Well, he's listening to rumors that an ex-boyfriend is possibly the father of our son. The rumors are coming from my brother, which is with him. We met online. About 3 months after talking online, we met in person. We moved in together, each other. It was like love at first sight. Like, I think we both fell in love over the telephone before we even met.
Mr. Pacheco overheard her family talking about another man being Isaiah's dad. Yikes. This planted serious doubts, and he's wondering if he's raising someone else's kid. But just when things seem clear, Ms. Hendricks fights back to defend herself.
Before the ex situation, I heard her over talking on the phone with a family member. The family member kept telling her, your ex wants me to tell you to tell the baby, before I go to jail, please keep in contact with me. Yeah, that's what started giving me more doubt. After gaining more doubts about the situation, Mr. Hendricks here, that's on the side of me. You know, he started to, one day we went out.
No, that's not true.
Mr. Pacheco left Ms. Hendricks at 7 months pregnant due to the rumors. She was alone and struggling. He showed up for the birth, cutting the umbilical cord and all. Just as it seemed they might reconcile, a missing birth certificate signature stirred things up again.
He thought that he was possibly not the father. And then we got past that. Like, he left me when I was 7 months pregnant. The rest of my pregnancy, I was by myself on, which was very depressing. He wanted to be in a delivery room. He came to the hospital with me. I didn't see him since I was 7 months into he's seen a baby be born, and he cut the umbilical cord. And everything.
But then after that, a family member of hers says, oh, that's the mailman's baby.
No.
Mr. Pacheco claims he was kicked out of the hospital before signing the birth certificate after a petty argument. Now, no one's happy. His name's missing, and it's a mess. And it only gets more awkward as Ms. Hendricks' brother takes the stand.
When I got kicked out, I tried to sign the birth certificate. If you see, his name is Isaiah Hendricks, it's not Isaiah Pacheco.
Wasn't there.
But every time I called you and I told you for us to make an appointment, you didn't want to do it. You always had excuses for everything.
It's not something I could just call and be like, oh, I want to change his name.
Look how.
So your intention the day you were in the hospital was to sign that birth certificate.
Yes.
The brother drops a bomb, claiming he saw another guy's stuff in the house, suggesting overlapping relationships. Ms. Hendricks denies it, but her brother doubles down, making everyone gasp. Now, Mr. Pacheco takes the stage, pouring out his heart.
Well, when we was all living together at the beginning of their relationship, I was living with my sister. I had noticed coming back and forth from work that there was this other man kind of hanging out. But one morning when I was leaving for work, I had noticed that this man's belongings was on the living room floor. I had caused some suspicion.
But that was different time. He came after that.
It was together.
No, it was not. It was totally different time.
Mr. Pacheco gets emotional, saying he loves Isaiah and hates how the rumors have messed him up. He didn't grow up with a dad and doesn't want Isaiah to face the same, despite his doubts. All of this builds up to the main event, the DNA test results.
What my son is going through right now, I go through that with my dad because my dad is, denying me and my older sister. I was never raised with a mom, or the one that raised me all my life was my grandmother. She gave me everything, you know what I'm saying? And I want the same thing for him. I want him to have me and her in his life. If I didn't love her, I wouldn't even be here right now.
Mr. Pacheco, you are his father.
Mr. Williams enters confidently, saying he just knows Quenisha is his daughter, despite Ms. Wynn being very clear she disagrees. He claims it's a deep gut feeling from 35 years ago, but Ms. Wynn insists she already knows who the father is, and it's not him. Mr. Williams says the newborn Quenisha looked like him. Everyone's wondering why he's so sure when Ms. Wynn's so against it.
Mr. Williams, from the moment you saw Quenisha Mayberry, you believe that she is your biological daughter, even though the defendant claimed you are not. You hope today's results prove what you have known for 35 years.
Mr. Williams says Quenisha looks like him and that he just knows. Their relationship sounds casual, but Ms. Wynn denies remembering any romantic involvement. She admits to walking by his shop often to catch his attention, but still doesn't think he's the dad. Somehow, even though he took care of Quenisha as a baby, she insists it means nothing.
It was the first time I saw her. She looked like me, fair skin, and I just knew she was my daughter. When she, about a week after she was born. Well, she's fair skinned, I was fair skinned, her mom is dark, and the other guy, he's darker.
That's not a lot of criteria.
No, but I just felt it in my heart.
And most babies are very pale when they're born.
Well, I just felt it in my heart that she was mine.
Mr. Williams shows an old photo of him and Quenisha, hoping it proves their bond, but Ms. Wynn dismisses it and says he should have taken a DNA test years ago. Quenisha adds that she never felt the man on her birth certificate was her real dad, feeling disconnected from him. The tension keeps rising, and we're still nowhere closer to the truth.
So this is a photo of you and Quenisha.
Yes.
You took that together many, many years ago. She has to be, what, 3 or 4?
I don't remember how old she was, but yeah, that's one of the photos.
Well, Your Honor, he should have tested her when he had her when she was over his house like that. When she was 3 years old, he should have tested her. Why wait 35 years to do this?
Mr. Williams found Quenisha on social media and started connecting, but hearing about her childhood reveals how much was missing. Quenisha shares that she was teased for not having a dad, feeling alone without anyone to turn to. Now, she wants to know the truth, not just for herself, but for her kids, hoping to fill the void she's always felt.
And I was just trolling Facebook and social media, and I saw one of her family members, and I was just going on each one of them until I saw a post on it that said, Cali reppin' Baby, and I punched on it, and it was Quenisha, and that's when I reached out to her. And I asked her to ask a family member who I am.
And then I asked about if he could be my father, and a family member was like, yeah, possibly.
DNA results reveal that
it has been determined by this court. Mr. Williams, you are not the father.
This courtroom drama kicks off with Mr. Thomas asking for a DNA test, unsure if he's the father of 15-month-old Hannah. He's already paying child support after signing the birth certificate under questionable circumstances, while Ms. Zachary insists he's the dad. Sparks start flying right away.
Mr. Thomas, you claim you've been petitioning the court system for a DNA test for 15-month-old Hannah Thomas for more than a year now. Now, you've been notified that you will be paying support because you signed the birth certificate, but claim claim it was under false pretenses.
Mr. Thomas expected a check in the mail, but instead found out half his paycheck would go to child support. Ms. Zachary says he knew this because of government assistance rules, sparking an argument. Just as you think they might settle down, things get messier with the pregnancy timeline.
2 weeks ago, Your Honor, I went to the mailbox thinking I'm getting a check, and unluckily, I end up getting a paper from child support saying that half my wage is going to be taken.
I don't mean to cut him off, but that is a lie, what he's saying. He knew that he was going to pay child support because I receive a medical card. I also receive cash assistance. I have to cooperate with child support in order to receive those assistance.
Mr. Thomas initially supported Mrs. Zachary's pregnancy, but grew suspicious when the timeline didn't add up. Mrs. Zachary revealed she was pregnant with twins, though sadly, one didn't survive. The courtroom then dives into what happened during their break.
Kaya was separated towards July, maybe for a couple weeks. August, we got back together, you know, towards the end of September, she told me she was, I feel pregnant. And we went to buy like maybe 4 or 5 pregnancy tests.
I went to that doctor's appointment and I came home. I handed him the papers. This is my results at the doctor. This is my proof of pregnancy.
No, Your Honor, I never received any paperwork, Your Honor.
Ms. Zachary admits seeing someone else during their break, which fuels Mr. Thomas's doubts about being the father. She insists she was honest when they reunited, but they argue about what counts as a break. Things get awkward fast, especially with their agreement at the hospital.
I had been on a break for over a month and a half when I was with the other guy in July.
Your Honor.
We got back together the end of July, beginning of August.
Kaya's a dirty fighter, Your Honor. We've been together almost 6 years.
Child.
Break for us is I'm leaving out the house, I'm going to go to my parents' house for a while, or you leave and you go with your mom or something like that.
No, that's not a break.
And we're always back together within a month time.
Mr. Thomas signed the birth certificate under an agreement to step up if the real dad stayed away. As time passed, his doubts grew, and their family secret plan unraveled. The tension heats up again when the story shifts to what happened after Hannah's birth.
She had her sister come get the children. I came up to the hospital. I was with her the whole night, all until she had the baby. I was there. It was no problem. If he didn't have any part, I would sign a birth certificate and Hannah would never know a thing. Nobody would never know a thing. This would be the biggest family secret that we ever had. And I had no problem with that because I'm not going to let just someone come in and destroy my family. Like, it just don't.
You destroyed your family.
It just don't
Your
leave
Honor,
that
he
easy.
destroyed his family.
Mr. Thomas accuses Ms. Zachary of seeing the other guy even after Hannah was born, with evidence like contacts labeled Hannah's dad. Ms. Zachary doesn't deny it, causing gasps throughout the courtroom. Then a surprise witness steps in with more revelations.
She was still sleeping with this man after Hannah was born.
Yes, I was. Because we decided that we wasn't going to be together. Been on and off for 5 years.
The guy, he just slept with her 2 weeks ago. My bed. She didn't go to his house. She didn't go to a hotel. It was the bed that we shared.
Mr. Hill, Mr. Thomas's uncle, claims Ms. Zachary once showed him a photo of Hannah's supposed father. He kept it to himself to avoid involvement. Ms. Zachary says she only brought it up because Mr. Thomas already suspected something.
I don't think that he is the father of Hannah.
You don't?
And the reason why is because she just don't look like him. And another reason ever, because I just didn't want no parts of it. I didn't want to get into it. She has shown me pictures of who she really thought was the baby's dad.
Mr. Thomas, in tears, shares his love for Hannah and the other kids, even if she isn't his. Mrs. Zachary admits her mistakes and hopes for confirmation so they can move forward. Emotions are high as they await the DNA results.
I've been okay with saying maybe she's mine, maybe she's not, but maybe she's mine, you know? I've been okay with that, you know? When I find out these results, it's gonna be like 99.999. Like, you know, it's nothing, and I don't know what that'll do to me because I love this girl just like she's mine.
Mr. Thomas, you are her father.
Buckle up, this is one messy ride. Ms. Haddle is trying to prove Mr. Andrews is the dad of her baby, Amarella. Mr. Andrews, calling her a serial cheater, denies it. Judge Lake points out their 8-year drama-filled relationship. And trust me, it's about to get messier.
Ms. Hadel, after 8 years off and on with the defendant, the two of you called quits just 3 months ago because he denies your 1-year-old daughter, Amarella. Now, you want to prove to him that he is her biological father.
Ms. Haddle says they got back together and even planned Amarella. Mr. Andrews doubts it, claiming she mentioned 2 other possible dads. He also argues the baby doesn't look like their other kid. It's real-life soap opera drama, and they're about to bring out text receipts.
We have had a rough road throughout these 7.5 years. 9 months into our relationship, impregnated another female while he was living with me. Started our relationship back. I had planned on having another child with him, so I did get pregnant. Amarella came, and I think the doubts came because she looks than our other child.
Mr. Andrews shares texts from another guy to prove Ms. Haddle's infidelity. No cookie recipes here. Ms. Haddle shrugs it off, while Mr. Andrews is like, see? And just when you think it's over, the infamous 3 a.m. window jump story enters.
Same person who I see this text message from is the same guy who she was having an affair with all along from the whole get-go. So when I seen that text message, my whole thought process was, I let you have it any time, and now you chicken, you're scared to come over.
I can't tell you word for word. It was
I know
sexual.
word for word.
I bet he does know word for word, but I don't, so I'm not gonna disagree, but anyhow.
Ms. Haddle admits she jumped out of a window at 3 a.m. because Mr. Andrews locked the door. He says she was sneaking out to meet her married boyfriend. Ms. Haddle says she needed comfort. Super shady, right? The madness continues with the birth drama.
She leave the house every time. It's always when a private car come, or it's after 3 a.m. That's the only time he able to get away from his wife, so-called.
What?
It was that it.
How are you getting up at 3 a.m. and leaving the house?
So there was no trust. I didn't trust him, he didn't trust me.
I get that you all were in a bad place in your relationship, but what does trust have to do with you playing Wonder Woman and jumping out the window?
While pregnant, Ms. Haddle found out another woman was also having Mr. Andrews' baby. Despite the chaos, he was there for Amarella's birth, his first time seeing one of his kids born. Sweet, but the drama doesn't end as they bring up affairs during her pregnancy.
8 months pregnant, I find out there's another female pregnant in the same town that we're living in. He was there, got to see this first child born out of whatever 6 or 7 children that he does have. This is the first child that he got to see born, so that was very special. Me as well, having him there. He was there the whole pregnancy, you know, took care, rubbed my back with the kids, helped keep the house clean, you know, whatnot, but mentally he wasn't a good...
Mr. Andrews claims Ms. Haddle got flirty texts from other guys while pregnant. She denies cheating, but he insists he has proof. The eye rolls are palpable, and just when you think it can't get wilder, it's time for the DNA test.
You want to tell the guy not to call back? I'm right to tell
I can have friends, and it's not a
private call.
Like I said, there was only one person that I had friends for comfort and security, and he did have friends. He had tons of friends.
Why do you need friends when you're having babies everywhere? You already had another baby. You're not denying you getting text messages. You didn't deny. You admitted in court today that you were looking for comfort and security.
The DNA results are in.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Andrew, you are the father.
Ms. Morris wants a DNA test to prove Mr. Byram is the father of their baby, Jackson. They already have 2 kids, and she thinks this test could save their family. Meanwhile, Mr. Byram is ready to leave if the test says otherwise.
Ms. Morris, you've petitioned the court for a DNA test to prove that the defendant is the father of your 1-month-old son, Jackson. You hope these results will save your family because you have 2 other kids together.
Mr. Byram claims this is Ms. Morris's second time cheating, and he's got proof. Turns out she was with his close friend, who he found hiding in her grandma's attic. Just when it couldn't get wilder, Ms. Morris shares her own side.
Mr. Byram, you say the plaintiff admitted to sleeping with another man, and when the results prove you are not Jackson's father, you plan to leave for good.
Yes, I do.
So, Mr. Byram, there's a lot at stake today, am I correct?
Our whole relationship is based on this paternity test right here.
Ms. Morris admits to cheating, explaining they were technically split up for a month. She was living at home, and he was down the street with another woman. It's a messy reality TV-like situation, with drama heating up.
Technically, we split up for a month, and he was living down the street at his friend's, and he was dating a different girl, and I was staying in the house with the guy, the other potential father.
The only reason I left is because you cheated on me. Period. The end.
Well, you shouldn't treat me like crap, and you've always accused
Whatever
me.
you say.
Now, we're piecing together the timeline. Ms. Morris was with the other guy on September 25th, and Mr. Byram on September 27th. He isn't buying the 1-month breakup excuse and insists it was more like 4 months. The timeline confusion is far from over.
And when did you sleep with him?
September 27th.
You could have slept with him the same day.
I slept with him on September 25th. That's why we're here today for the result.
Oh, so you slept with the other guy September 25th. You admit you slept with his friend and him within 2 days.
Yeah, sure.
It wasn't just that one time she's saying. She was sleeping with him every day.
Ms. Morris admits to sending baby pictures to the other guy's mom, who wanted updates on her maybe grandchild. Mr. Byram is visibly frustrated. The awkwardness in the courtroom just keeps rising.
She's still talking to his mom about it.
No.
Sending his mom pictures of the baby, trying to tell me that it's my kid.
His mother, the other guys, does turn out to be her sons that she wanted to be in his life. So when the baby was first born, I sent her pictures of the baby because she was asking me about how much he weighed and all that. So not an everyday thing. It only happened twice.
Mr. Byram explains he's trying to care for the baby, but emotionally, he's distant until the paternity is confirmed. Ms. Morris is upset by his hesitation. The tension is palpable as they await the results.
You treat Jackson differently?
Yes, he does. He shows my other two way more attention than he shows him.
Do you blame me?
So you do admit you're having a hard time bonding with Jackson because you don't know?
I still buy him toys and do whatever for him, but I keep my distance from him because I don't know if he's my son.
Sometimes he'll act like a dad to him, and then sometimes he won't.
Mr. Byram admits it's hard to connect with Jackson without knowing for sure if he's the father. He's trying to be present, but struggles with the uncertainty. Everyone is anxiously waiting for the DNA results.
I held the baby first.
Did you sign the birth certificate?
No, I did not.
You did not?
No. I just kept looking at him and thinking about what she did to me, and I can't do it, you know? I can't treat him the same as my other kids because I know for a fact that those other babies are mine, and I love them to death. I just can't love him full on, love him until I know that he is my flesh and blood. I just can't. Never.
The results are in.
It has been determined by Mr. Byram. You are the father.
Yes. Yes.
When I was 7 months pregnant, out to here, and he said, "You are not pregnant, it's all in your head. If you are pregnant, it is not mine. My last name, and do not put me on the birth certificate," is exactly what it said.
Saying I'm not her father because while in the Coast Guard, just before she informed me that she was pregnant.
And you've got 3 kids after that, Mr. McBain. How are you
I have
sterile?
3 kids after that. It was due to stress. I was under a great deal of
you were under stress with other women.
This one kicks off like a soap opera. Ms. Chmielewski claims her late boyfriend, Georgie, is the father of her son, Xavier, but Georgie's parents aren't convinced. The drama in this courtroom is about to go from whoa to what?
Ms. Chmielewski, you say you had a loving 5-year relationship with the defendant's son, Georgie, who unfortunately died in a motorcycle accident. You claim the defendants initially accepted your son, Xavier, but now need proof that they are Xavier's grandparents.
Ms. Chmielewski shares how devastated she was when Georgie died, but his parents are like, who even are you? They never knew about the alleged 5-year relationship. Things get even messier when Georgie's parents question the entire story.
I was devastated, heartbroken.
Just making me understand one thing. Why didn't I know about you?
I don't understand why you didn't know about me either.
Okay, that's not an answer. 5-year relationship. I've never seen you in my house.
Did you ever ask Georgie why you haven't introduced me to your parents?
No, because we were just friends. It was like a sexual friendship that we had for so many years.
Ms. Chmielewski didn't meet Georgie's parents until after his death, making things super awkward. Mrs. Brown admits she had never heard of her. Tensions rise, and soon DNA tests and ghost stories will be thrown in.
Did you call his parents, or you felt like you didn't know them?
I didn't have their numbers.
I don't know her. I met her after Georgie passed.
So at what point did you finally decide I need to reach out to his parents because
she didn't. I reached out to her.
I
reached out to her. Okay, my son is not here. I'm picking up where he left off.
Georgie's friend urges his parents to look into Xavier's paternity. Mrs. Brown decides to check it out after neighborhood chatter won't stop. Then someone mentions Xavier has Georgie's nose, adding even more drama.
I pursued this test is because a friend of Georgie told him, you need to find out if this baby is Georgie. It's other people in the neighborhood must be saying something because he came to me after 2 years. He brought this to my attention. It went over my head.
You told me that he looks like all your other grandkids. But that's what you said. He has Georgie's nose.
My grandkids are biracial.
Ms. Chmielewski says she and Georgie once tried a home DNA test but couldn't afford it. Georgie's parents ask why she didn't come to them, and things get awkward. Even the judge seems baffled by this situation.
He and Georgie was doing a home DNA test a couple months before he had passed, and we couldn't come up with the money. After, I think it was like 5 months, then he had passed away. So then
you should have came to me then.
He was 2 weeks before he turned 1.
Did Georgie accept Xavier? Did they have a relationship?
He saw him a couple times.
5-year relationship? You only saw him a couple times?
Turns out there's another possible father who's also passed away. Ms. Chmielewski tried reaching out to his family for a DNA test, but got no response. Now, 2 families are involved, and things are getting confusing.
No. Did you ever tell the other guy?
He had passed away when I was 5 months pregnant.
Oh.
He had got murdered. A family member of mine had contacted his family. They did not respond.
So both potential fathers of this beautiful little boy had passed away?
Yes, Your Honor.
So what happened to the parents?
I can't a friend of mine contacted his sister.
Ms. Chmielinsky presents a video showing Georgie's supposed spirit near Xavier. The judge and Mrs. Brown look on skeptically. It's funny, spooky, and just when you think it can't get weirder, it does.
And in the video, you can see Georgie's spirit.
I said it looks like a spirit. It said it's like a cloud. We're sitting in the car right now, and my friend is videotaping him and talking to him. And as you can see on the right, there is like this cloudy thing that comes out of nowhere, and my son looks at it, and then it goes away.
Just looks like a reflection.
The DNA results come back.
And Mr. Long and Xavier Chmielinsky is 0%.
Judge Lake introduces Ms. Brugger and Ms. Warner, who are already throwing accusations. Ms. Brugger claims her baby was fathered by Ms. Warner's late grandson, while Ms. Warner accuses her of wanting the family's oil money. Buckle up, because there's a sterility bombshell on the way.
Ms. Brugger, you are here to prove to the defendant that your son, Parrish Brooks Jr., was fathered by the defendant's grandson, who was tragically killed 2 months ago in an auto accident. Now, Ms. Warner, you are here with your granddaughter, and you don't believe Parrish Jr. is your great-grandson.
Things heat up as Ms. Warner claims her grandson couldn't have kids, while Ms. Brugger insists he's the father. She describes Parrish's commitment, showing up at appointments, and planning to sign the birth certificate. This is shaping up to be a wild courtroom drama.
We lived together. We were a family. He told everyone my girls were his stepdaughters. He called them his stepdaughters, everything. He was there through my whole pregnancy, all the doctor's appointments. No, he couldn't be there, but as soon as he got out, he was adamant about having the hospital hold on to the birth certificate before they turned it in so that he could sign it.
And then they're arguing about whether the baby looks like Parrish. Yes, it's forehead talk now. Ms. Warner says the baby doesn't resemble the family, but Ms. Brugger insists he looks just like Grandpa. Emotions are high as family members keep adding fuel to the fire.
But to me, that's not his job. He loved the baby, Your Honor, but the baby doesn't even look like him. He doesn't act like him. His forehead's not, there's nothing about him to tell me that that is my grandson.
My son looks...
No, he doesn't.
Around his eyes, he looks just like him.
No,
he looks like his grandpa.
Grandpa ain't never did nothing for Parrish. Well,
that's what y'all say.
Ms. Warner explains she didn't question paternity earlier to keep Parrish happy while alive. She describes how close they were as she raised him after his mother died. Past family issues are suddenly brought back to stir things up.
Ms. Warner, is all this time, even when the baby was there, did you have doubt about the paternity?
But I wasn't going to say anything with Parrish.
You just didn't want to upset Parrish?
No, I did not want to come between Parrish and that. But now Parrish is no longer. I can say my piece now. Your Honor, his mother died in '85. I'm the only person was there for Parrish. That's why I just couldn't hurt him.
Ms. Brugger says she learned about Parrish's death through Facebook. Talk about a rough way to find out. Ms. Warner claims she was too upset to call, and Ms. Veasley accuses Ms. Brugger of shady past relationships. It's a web of accusations, and you need a playbook to keep track.
I got a phone call from one of my friends that seen it on Facebook. They had just found out that morning too, but you would think me.
I'm grieving. That was my son. I didn't have time to call nobody.
Seen it on
Rochelle,
Facebook.
So when I'm looking at Facebook at like 5 o'clock in the morning going to work, Grandma, have you heard anything about Parrish? I had just talked to Parrish the Friday that he died at like 10 o'clock in the morning.
Ms. Brugger denies cheating, saying she was just doing hair as a licensed cosmetologist. Ms. Warner claims Ms. Brugger mistreated Parrish Jr. during a visit, sparking arguments over bad choices. This family has layers of drama, and they're not holding back.
First of all, I have a degree in cosmetology, so I do hair. When me and Parrish first got together, there's a guy I've known for years, and he's my brother's friend. I've been doing his hair for years. It happened one time I was doing his hair. Parrish came home, he got mad about it. I stopped doing his hair. He never came back over again to get his hair done.
Ms. Brugger calls out Parrish's family for not accepting the baby. She says it hurt Parrish deeply that his family didn't celebrate his first child. Emotions peak as they prepare for the DNA results.
She has came to my house, yes, to see my son. Maybe 3 times, 4. Every time they have seen my son, me and Parrish packed all the kids up and we had to go to their house. After my son was born, my family was at the house all the time coming to see the baby, to the point where we're like, oh my God, go home so we get some rest. He was mad because he felt they were not embracing the fact that he finally did have a kid.
The DNA test proves
it has been determined by this court Mr. Harvey is related to Parrish Brooks Jr. Therefore, Parrish Brooks Sr. is also related to Parrish Brooks Jr.
Okay, buckle up, people. Things are about to get messy. The case of Owens Roe versus Rains kicks off with all the drama you'd expect. Ms. Owens says Mr. Rains left her high and dry while she was pregnant with their daughter, Jaime.
Ms. Owens, you say that after a whirlwind teenage romance and a brief marriage to Mr. Rains, he got you pregnant and then left high and dry to raise your daughter, Jamie, on your own. You say the defendant is fully aware he is your daughter's father, and you intend to prove this today.
Things between these two were like a soap opera. Love, fights, and lots of drama. Ms. Owens says she was a couple of weeks pregnant when she moved back in with her parents because, get this, Mr. Rains came home one night with friends and random girls. Awkward.
Because he was a lying, cheating piece of trash.
Oh!
I was actually 2 to 3 weeks pregnant when I went back and to live with my parents when he left me. This is after him and 2 of his friends had come home about 1 o'clock in the morning with 3 girls and expected me to think they were just friends.
Mr. Rains has his own version, though. He says they were on and off like a bad Wi-Fi signal. He even married her after a miscarriage, but after more back and forth drama, he says enough and bailed.
I was young back in those days. We were off and on. We were young, off and on, off and on. She got pregnant initially, and I married her because I was trying to do the right thing. She wanted to have a miscarriage. Again, after that, off and on, I got tired of it. It got old. And so she always wanted to go back home, so I let her go back home.
Oh, but here's the kicker. Ms. Owens sent him a letter saying she was pregnant, and his response? Pretty much, nah, not my problem. Honestly, this relationship sounds like a reality TV show waiting to happen.
About 3 to 4 months, I get a letter from her, and that's saying she's pregnant, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I hate your luck. You know, I'm not with you, haven't been with you.
We had a few, not many. About the only time we really did have any connection was in bed.
So you felt like your husband was cheating. I have to ask you, were you cheating too?
No, ma'am, I sure wasn't.
I don't know.
Now it's math time, but not the boring kind. Mr. Rains pulls out a calendar to prove the dates don't line up. He claims they split in August, so there's no way he's the baby daddy since Jaime was conceived in October.
Is that the calendar you submitted to the court?
Yes. Jamie was born July 31st. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is when Clara says she's pregnant.
No, well, I got pregnant in October.
This is when she said 6 8. So I left in August is when I left. No. I was no longer, we broke up. I was no longer with her in August.
Ms. Owens is like, nice try, buddy, and swears up and down that he was still around in October. Meanwhile, the judge is probably sitting there like, someone get me Advil.
I come home in October. He dropped me off at my parents and told them, do something with her. I cannot.
That could have possibly been true. I mean, you were something to deal with.
If you hadn't have been such a piece of crap, I wouldn't have been so hard to get along with.
Maybe, maybe not.
And here's where it gets spicier than hot sauce. Ms. Owens says she got a letter from Mr. Rains while she was 7 months pregnant, and he basically told her to kick rocks. He even said not to give the baby his last name. Ouch.
When I was 7 months pregnant, out to here, and he said, you are not pregnant, it's all in your head. If you are pregnant, it is not mine. My last name, and do not put me on the birth certificate. No. I wanted my daughter to have a father like I had growing up. She did not have that.
When Jaime was born, Ms. Owens didn't even call Mr. Rains to say, hey, it's baby time. She went full-on independent mode and gave Jaime her maiden name instead.
And so when you gave birth, did you ask him to be there? Did you say, I'm having the baby, do you want to come to the hospital?
I did not want him around. Oh. I loved him so much when we got together that I would have done anything for him. And that love turned to pure hate. And I hated him as much as I loved him.
Meanwhile, Mr. Rains says he paid child support and even tried to be involved, but he claims Ms. Owens made it harder than a math test to see Jaime. Things are heating up, and Jaime's about to speak her truth.
Child support came to me. I get a letter.
By child support, it was not, I could have cared less if I had got any child support from him.
Paid. I took responsibility of her. I had family saying she looks like you and stuff, and I just thought I was doing the right thing, Your Honor. It was not easy with Miss Clara to try to even see her, to have a relationship with.
Get the tissues. Folks, Jaime shares how tough it was growing up not knowing who her real dad was. She says people told her all the time that she didn't look like Mr. Rains, and another guy might be her dad. Can you imagine hearing that growing up? Yikes.
Who did you think was your father growing up?
I've had several people tell me all through my life that I didn't look like him, that he wasn't, that the timeline was off, that there was this other guy that when I was 12. I was gonna move with Mr. Rains, and she told me that she was with someone else. I let it go because I thought, well, maybe
should just told me moving with him.
Jaime says the whole thing was super confusing and painful. She just wants the truth already, because all this he said she said is giving her a headache. And same, honestly.
Being told that somebody else was my father, that, I've seen what the other person looks like. I personally think I look like the other.
You do. And then 6 months ago, when the man you believe to be your father, you think all this time this is my father, but he's going in and out of my life.
Right.
He pretty much affirms what your mother told you when you were 12.
Yeah.
All right, the moment we've all been waiting for. The DNA results are in.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Rain, you are the father.
This is wild, like a scene from a TV show. When Ms. Robertson was 8, her mom casually told her the guy she thought was her dad wasn't, and pointed to some random guy in a phone book saying, "That's your real dad." Imagine having an identity crisis before you even hit double digits. Things only get messier from here.
Ms. Robertson, your world was turned upside down at the age of 8 when you received the shocking news to be your biological father was not. You were informed that the defendant, Mr. McBain Sr., is your father. You've dragged him to court to prove that today.
Yes, Your Honor.
Things get confusing fast. Ms. Robertson found her birth certificate, and guess whose name was on it? Mr. McBain, who claims his name got put there just because he was married to her mom, and he doubted being her dad from the start.
Why, if he's denying it, why is his name on my birth certificate? Why did he sign his rights away? And Your Honor, I have proof right here.
So this is your birth certificate?
Yes, my name may be on there, Your Honor. However, it's on there because the state put it on there. I had nothing to do with putting my name on her birth certificate.
It gets awkward and funny. Mr. McBain accuses Ms. Graham, his ex, of cheating, and even claims she suggested a threesome. He says that's why he doubts Ms. Robertson is his kid, but the drama's far from over.
She was unfaithful. She asked me for a threesome at one point in the marriage as well.
After 8 years old, how were you coping?
I let it go until I turned right before my 13th birthday. And that's when I had told my mother that all I wanted for my 13th birthday was to meet Mr. McBain. She got it for me.
When Ms. Robertson turned 13, she just wanted to meet Mr. McBain. They met for 40 minutes and then he was gone again. She never heard from him after that. Can you imagine how much that hurt?
What do you remember?
It only lasted about 40 minutes and that was like more than anything in the world for me at that time. And then it was over. After that, I believe I had talked to him a couple times after that. Then all of a sudden his phone number got disconnected. It was taken out of the phone book. He was just gone, like he fell off the face of the earth.
I'm not her dad.
Here's a twist. Mr. McBain says the Coast Guard told him he was sterile, yet he had more kids later, which makes his claim a bit questionable, though he insists it proves he's not Ms. Robertson's dad.
I'm saying I'm not her father because while in the Coast Guard, just before she informed me that she was pregnant.
And you've got 3 kids after that, Mr. McBain. How are you sterile?
I have 3 kids after that. It was due to stress. I was under a great deal of...
you were under stress with other women.
I never once cheated on Miss Graham. I'm not like her.
Mr. McBain said he caught Ms. Graham cheating because of some clothes he found, but Ms. Graham insists they were his clothes. It's a classic, no, you did it argument, like a reality show where nothing makes sense.
I was working 7 days a week for about 3 months straight and went back home. As I'm walking across the living room, I look over and there's a pair of boots and a coat on the floor and a coat on
Your Honor, those were his boots and his coat.
I walked over to her room, I beat on the door, I said, I don't know who you are in there, but you've got 30 seconds to get out of my house or you're gonna be really sorry.
No.
Things turn cringeworthy. Mr. McBain thinks a guy from one of their threesomes could be Ms. Robertson's dad, but Ms. Graham denies it. Meanwhile, Ms. Robertson is just stuck in the middle, thinking, what is my life?
I believe that the guy that we had the threesome with is actually the father of Miss Roberts.
Excuse me, and who is that?
It was an individual I was stationed with.
Yeah, you were stationed with a lot.
I know, and so were you.
But wait a minute, other men could potentially be Miss Robertson's father?
Yes, I do, Your Honor. Well, between the Coast Guard telling me I was sterile, the fact that the man's Hawaiian, he's Samoan.
The court reads the DNA results.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. McBain Sr., you are not her father.
This kicks off with a wild courtroom intro. Garnett v. Langston. Ms. Garnett says she's here to prove Mr. Langston is her dad, while he's got some doubts. Both want apologies, and things just get crazier from there.
Ms. Garnett, you and your mother, Ms. Miller, have opened your case to prove to the defendant that he is your biological father. You are baffled because you consider him a daddy and a best friend and state his doubt is unwarranted and demand an apology once the results are revealed.
Mr. Langston sent a text saying he wasn't sure he was Ms. Garnett's dad and told her to ask your mom. It was like a grenade in a family chat and shook Ms. Garnett. But if you think that's bad, just wait, it gets worse.
So this started with a text.
So after almost 2 years of reaching out to my father after visiting him in 2015, finally responded with this message.
So I think your mother blanked me. She was missing around when you were born. I don't want to keep causing you pain, but I have mixed feelings about it. Talk to your mother and find out the truth.
Ms. Garnett visited Mr. Langston at a family funeral, and things were cool until he ghosted her afterward. Mr. Langston admits he always had doubts. His reasons? Well, there's something else.
We live in different states, Your Honor, but we had always been close. I went to visit him in Chicago for a funeral and was by his side for one of our family members. Everything was great, but when I returned back home, I don't know what happened. He just cut off communication.
Well, I wasn't talking to her like I normally do.
Why?
Because I was just harboring this that she's not my daughter.
At a funeral, Mr. Langston casually mentioned he might not be her father, like it was no big deal. Ms. Garnett was blindsided, but later he took it back. Next, money and DNA tests come into play.
2 years ago, when I was at the funeral with him, he had brought up for the very first time that he thought I may not have been his daughter, which blew my mind. Went on and on about him and my mother's past and all this, but then after he vomited all this tragedy on me, he recanted and took it back.
Bad enough feeling because I seen the fact right away, and I'm not trying to hurt her. I love her.
Money made it spicy. Mr. Langston says he paid child support for over 20 years. There was even an old DNA test Ms. Garnett took, but it was never finished, left like unfinished homework. Next, get ready for heartbreak.
I paid child support not only 18 years, I paid it 20 years.
But when
they
did you
started
start?
sending me checks back for overpayment, $1,700.
So how come you didn't take that $100,000 for a DNA test when before I turned 36 years old?
I'll tell you, I had an answer for you.
The text shook Ms. Garnett to her core. She shared how much she bonded with Mr. Langston and hoped their connection meant something. Despite the pain, she wasn't ready to give up. Up next, Mr. Langston gets super honest.
When he sent that text to me, I cried my hardest cry. I was devastated. I felt like he was taking my identity away from me because I've always known I was a Langston. I have so much about my father. When he came back into my life, an adult, it was like a piece of the puzzle was missing.
Mr. Langston says sending that text was one of the hardest things he's done. He couldn't keep lying about his doubts. He even took his first plane ride at 61 to resolve this, his version of a midlife crisis with paternity tests. Then, social media joins the mix.
I didn't want to hurt her. When I had that phone and did that text, it crushed me when I pushed that button because I know what the effect was going to have on her. I didn't want to. But how am I going to deny how I feel in the inside? How I'm going to do that when I got grandbabies and I want them to be my grandbabies? That'll be the best news I can ever have.
Ms. Garnett posted a side-by-side photo of her and Mr. Langston's dad, and her cousins went wild, saying they looked alike. It turned into a family resemblance debate that landed in court. But DNA results are about to steal the spotlight.
You began to post on Facebook.
After the text message, I did some soul searching. I was just laying in my bed looking through my phone, and I saw a picture of myself. This picture reminded me of this picture of my grandfather. This is Mr. Langston's father. And I noticed some similarities in our faces. I said, "It's my grandfather. Do you see the resemblance?"
Boom.
When it comes to 36-year-old Shauna Garnett, Mr. Langston, you are not father.
Miss Garcia explains that Miss Huffman, who's younger than her and her father, claims to have 2 kids with her dad. Garcia's response? DNA test, please. Things are heating up, and it's getting as wild as microwave leftovers.
Ms. Garcia, you claim that before your father's death, Ms. Huffman, who is 31 years younger than him and 6 years younger than you, and was pregnant with another. You have petitioned the court for a DNA test to protect your father's estate and his name by supporting that he is not the father of the defendant's 2 daughters.
Garcia says her dad was certain these kids weren't his and called out Huffman for getting around. Huffman isn't having it though, and her side is coming in hot.
Well, I'm basically here on behalf of my dad because he passed away about 2 years ago. He was not sure that if they were his or not because she had gotten around.
So the questions that remain have been unanswered. So Ms. Huffman, it's your belief that Ms. Garcia's father did both of your children?
Yes.
Miss Huffman shares she met Garcia's dad at a carnival because nothing says love like Ferris wheels. She insists she wasn't seeing anyone else when her daughter Claudia was conceived. But Garcia is about to drop some Facebook drama, so buckle up.
So take me to the day you believe you conceived Claudia, your older child.
On March 17th of 2013.
And you all were dating, you hanging out together.
It was more like hanging out in the truck.
You would hang out in his truck.
Goof around in the beginning, and then we got into the whole thing on how you get pregnant.
Huffman DM'd Garcia out of the blue about the kids, and Garcia had no clue they even existed. Suddenly, Garcia is throwing out serious accusations that change the whole story.
She messaged me on Facebook and she said that she was pregnant with a child and that she had a 2-year-old daughter, that they were my dad's. And he basically said that yes, that he was messing around with her, but he didn't believe that those were his children. She got around, pretty much said that they weren't his.
Garcia says her dad doubted the kids were his because he caught Huffman getting cozy with the neighbor. Huffman denies it, and things get juicier with talk of a previous paternity test.
And he pretty much told me that one day she was at his house and he couldn't find her, so he went looking for her, and he saw her in the backyard with the neighbor and she was giving him oral sex.
Whoa!
No, it's not.
Did her father actually catch you with another man?
No.
Huffman once tested another man for Claudia's paternity before, which adds to the mess. A court employee confirmed Huffman wasn't sure who the dad was. Meanwhile, Garcia did something surprising despite her doubts.
While assisting the defendant, Ms. Huffman, with setting up a DNA test for her and her daughters, she unknowingly admitted that she tested another man in the past. She said that she did not remember if she brought birth certificate with her the last time she tested a man against Claudia, which indicated to me that she truly does not know who the biological father of Claudia is.
Garcia, being nicer than anyone expected, still listed Huffman's daughters as siblings during her father's cremation arrangements. Huffman refused to sign, raising more doubts and bringing everyone to one conclusion: DNA time.
To get the results for my kids, to be able to financially make it with them with their health issues. There's times where I don't even have a phone because I'm putting it in for the kids.
I hope that they are my sisters, and I hope to tell them about my dad and what a wonderful man he was.
And Carrie Garcia is 99.9% you are related.
My son was outside playing.
Stop.
He came. He was at the front gate. So he was like, Jalen, come here, Jalen, come here. So I'm like, who's calling my son? He gave my son $1. 5 minutes after talking to me and my son, he took it back.
What?
Exactly.
I'll be honest with you.
Scott.
I'll be honest with you. She got me confused with another dude because I never did that.
Oh my God.
This is the only time.
Miss Scott, did you use protection?
No, it wasn't protected.
You all were only seeing one another?
Like, I was currently in a relationship when I met him originally.
So why would you do that?
He was my escape plan. He was my dummy, basically.
Things kick off with Ms. Scott McCrae suing her daughter for $3,900 in loans she says haven't been paid back. Wait, Ms. Scott has her own wild claims, saying her mom is jealous and wants her man.
Miss Scott McCrae, you claim that you've been supporting your daughter, Miss Scott, and her 7 children long enough.
Yes.
You say that your daughter's husband is a deadbeat, and you wish she'd leave this man and get off the system. Miss Scott McCrae, you are suing your daughter for $3,900 unpaid loan.
Ms. Scott McCrae comes in swinging, calling her daughter's husband a deadbeat who can't hold a job. Ms. Scott isn't having it though, snapping back that her man has a job and that her mom just wishes she had a man like him. Let's just say the room gets loud and awkward real fast.
I don't want to break up my daughter and her husband, but my daughter needs a wake-up call. She's very intelligent. He's a deadbeat. He's not a good provider. He hinders his family more so, I think, than he can help. Can't keep a job for more than a week or two.
He has a job.
When did he get it? Last week?
It doesn't matter
And how long is he
got
gonna
it. He's
keep
working.
it? 2 weeks? How long is he gonna keep it?
Just let it be known, Mom.
And now we're fighting about cereal. Yep, cereal. The mom says her son-in-law ate all the cereal and drank all the milk, leaving nothing for the kids. The husband denies it, but at this point, you're wondering how breakfast turned into a courtroom brawl.
One night, particularly, he went into the kitchen 3 or 4 times, and the whole night he was eating cereal. He was eating cereal.
And that's just what a bed
that was what a bed they would do.
Okay, but did that take cereal out of my children's
it didn't
mouth?
take the cereal. They couldn't eat the cereal.
Why are you on
So he
these
drunk up all the milk.
You're saying
for
somebody
milk.
be on little things like
She had to ask me.
Things things turn serious when they start talking about money. Ms. Scott says her mom once gave her a bounce check that caused major problems, but the mom denies it. It's a classic she said moment, with both sides yelling over each other.
But let you tell it you paid our rent 5 and 6 months, Mom.
That's when I was staying with you when you were over on
But when have you
Tuckasegee,
ever
and as
paid
soon
our
as I
rent for
moved
5
out,
or 6
y'all
months,
got
Mom?
evicted because you couldn't
because
continue
you
to
gave
pay
me a
the rent.
bounce check.
No, I gave it. I didn't give you. I canceled $400 of it. Mike had an $800 check, but I had to take 4 of it to move out of your house because I got tired of living in the situation.
Ms. Scott is still upset about that check and claims it made her family lose their home. Her mom argues that she doesn't owe them anything and was just trying to help. The back and forth here is so wild, even Judge Lake can't keep a straight face.
She came to live with us from Asheville. She was in treatment. She left treatment. She cleaned. She came and lived with us. For the first year, we did not ask her for no money. Every week she got her unemployment, she used her money on her. If I did go to her for $1 here and there, okay, you living with us. She didn't have to buy no food. She did not have to do none of that. Now, at the end of the year, we got in the bind.
Just when you think it couldn't get crazier, Ms. Scott accuses her mom of doing grown-up stuff in the living room while living in their house. And yes, the kids almost saw it. The mom denies it, but by now, it's clear this family needs way more than a courtroom. They need a therapist.
Now, she's acting like a little high school girl while she was living with us, sleeping with him in the house. Like one morning, we getting the kids ready for daycare. Toy wouldn't have walked in the living room. Kids would have seen her full moon. Doing what
having sex?
with the children.
Having sex?
You're right.
Ms. Scott drops another bomb, claiming her mom kissed her husband on the cheek, and not just a little peck. She says it was a slobbery, gross kiss. The mom says it's a lie, but the damage is already done. The drama here is messier than a soap opera.
What about the day when we was in the home having a couple drinks, Your Honor? She's about to leave. I walk her out to her car. Something just told me to, just look back out the door. She done got out her car, walked up to our car where Toy was sitting, and kissed him on his cheek. A slobbery kiss. If he would have turned his face, that would have been tongue kissing.
The husband, Mr. Young, finally gets his turn. He says the mom has made weird comments about how helpful he is, and even wanted him to help her set up a tent. Yes, a tent. He also thinks she has a crush on him, and adds that she's got some mental problems. The courtroom is now officially on fire.
She always touching me on my chest.
What chest?
She always saying, you do more than I can my son or the man I'm sleeping with to do, to have me come and do things.
God.
She even came out the blue one day to even come and get me by myself to come and pick up a tent for her. Man, she's sleeping with in the same house.
The lie detector test results are in, and here's what we find out. The mom didn't make any moves on her son-in-law and doesn't want to. Everyone's relieved, kind of, but it's still super awkward. The judge is like, can we all agree to stop being weird now?
Ms. Scott McCrae, you were asked, have you ever made any sexual advances towards your son-in-law, Toy? You said no.
No.
And the lie detector determined that was true.
Yes, it was.
Whoa, this courtroom is a total soap opera. Ms. Dixon is here to prove Mr. Froyo is her dad, even though his name's on her birth certificate, and he's been denying her for years. Oh, and she's also battling cancer while sorting out her family drama. Talk about heavy.
This is the case of Dixon v. Froyo. Ms. Dixon, today you come to our court after a very difficult journey, some grave health issues in your state. You say you believe that Mr. Froyo is your father, and he has denied you since you were a little girl, even though he signed your birth certificate.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Dixon spills the tea on her rough past. At her grandma's funeral, Mr. Froyo told her not to cry because she's not your grandmother. Ouch. Later, he even suggested another guy might be her dad. Between her health struggles and constant rejection, this is heartbreak central.
I just want to know. I don't want him to feel sorry for me. He says he's not my dad, but he'll be there for me. I don't need a charity case, if he's not my daddy. But if he is, I'd like him to know, I've been through so much. My grandmother passed away. His mother in '98 told me my tears weren't needed because it wasn't my grandmother. I was 10. He told me when I was about 15 that a man named Tom Ashley was my father.
Then Ms. Dixon's mom jumps in with fire, accusing Mr. Froyo of inventing some random Tom Ashley to dodge responsibility. She claims he only denied Ms. Dixon because he wanted a son. Yikes! The courtroom is shook as Mr. Froyo claps back, and the drama is just getting started.
He would not give me a phone number, an address. He wouldn't tell me where he was taking her, and I wasn't having that. And there is no Tom Ashley. You know what? If there is a Tom Ashley, I would like to meet him because got to be a better dad than him. He denies her because she was a girl. That's why he denied her.
Is that
he
true,
wanted
Mr.
a boy.
Froyo?
No.
Mr. Froyo has Ms. Dixon's name tattooed with his other kids, so why deny her? He blames last name drama, leaving everyone confused. Just when it seems like things couldn't get messier, Ms. Dixon drops even more emotional truths, and the room is reeling.
He tattooed my name name on his arm. Like he said, he's got older children. All 4 of us are in a row, from oldest to youngest. My name's on his arm.
Is that true?
Yes, ma'am. Up till 5 years ago, Your Honor.
Are you serious right now? You denied me in 98.
The simple reason is, Your Honor, why does Samantha have Dixon for her last name if I am true her biological father and it's not my last name?
Ms. Dixon reveals battling cancer while caring for her kids with zero support from Mr. Froyo. At 19, she had no hair and no help, yet she powered through. The judge practically begs Mr. Froyo to show some humanity, and the tension is so thick it's suffocating.
And they stayed together 5 years after I was born. And he denied me when I was 8. He denied me when I was 15. He denied me again when I was 7. I don't want anything from him physically. I just want to know that he doesn't need to be my dad to feel sorry for me. I battled cancer for 6 years by myself with nobody there. He's lost his mother to cancer. You would think being that if you thought I was your daughter, why wouldn't you want to be there?
Ms. Dixon opens up about seeking love in all the wrong places after being rejected by Mr. Froyo as a teen. She lost twins and faced even more heartbreak while he stayed distant. The courtroom is floored as her pain becomes undeniable.
I didn't have a dad. I had no male figure in my life to lay the law. My mom was working 60 hours a week to support the home. She had 2 other kids besides me. I lost my virginity and got pregnant with twins. I called Sam when I was pregnant with them twins, and he asked me if they were meant, and I told him they were. And you know what? Well, when my twins died January 17th, I called him, and he told me it was meant to happen. He showed up to the funeral because they were dead. That's the only reason why.
The results are in.
When it comes to Samantha Ashley, Mr. Froyo, you are her father.
Told you. It was Bob Ashley.
Okay, so things kick off with Mr. Jenkins throwing out some pretty wild accusations. Ms. Hensley is like, yeah, I messed up before, but this kid's yours, and I'm gonna prove it. Buckle up, folks. This drama is just getting started.
Mr. Jenkins, you say your girlfriend is a known cheater who has spent the last 2 years bouncing between you, her ex-boyfriends, and her co-worker, and can't be trusted. You say there is no way you are the father of her daughter, Asher, and this paternity doubt has put your wedding on hold.
Now we hear how their relationship is basically a slow-motion train wreck. Even though they live together, he barely helps out with Asher because he's not convinced the kid is his. Yikes. But wait, the backstory gets even messier.
It's really put the relationship on a line because I love being with her, but it's making me have more and more doubts as time goes on because I keep finding more and more cases.
Because at this point, you don't believe anything she says?
No, Your Honor.
Which is why you basically canceled the wedding?
Yes, Your Honor. I've been sleeping on the couch and doing very minimal things to help with the baby and such since I don't believe that it's mine.
Here comes the first big twist, and it's spicy. She's like, it was innocent, chill, but then some old texts pop up, and they're all like, miss you, or whatever. Awkward. This is just the warm-up, though.
There arose one time, when we were first together for 4 weeks, we worked at the same location. Text her, and she was going to come over and spend the night. Well, she ended up messaging me saying, hey, I'm staying late until 2 a.m. at midnight is when she was supposed to get off. And I noticed the business was already closed. Then I realized there's only 2 vehicles there, her car and her ex-boyfriend's truck.
As if the parking lot thing wasn't enough, Mr. Jenkins is now side-eyeing Ms. Hensley's co-worker. Apparently, her friends were all, girl, ditch Jenkins, but she stayed loyal. Sounds complicated, right? Just wait until we get to the baby drama.
We were working at a factory at the time. She had a fellow co-worker that would always come over and like fake nudge her, joke with her, flirt with her, talk with her, and I never could trust him. Yet one night, I went through her phone again, and she was messaging her manager about the co-worker saying he's so cute, but yet he knows about David.
All right, so even though he signed the birth certificate, Mr. Jenkins admits he's been keeping his distance from baby Asher. Like, seriously, how do you not cry at that? Jenkins is all stuck in his feelings, but things are about to take a sharp turn when the truth finally drops.
And so what is your relationship like with Asher?
I love her because I was there when she was born, somewhat helped to take care of her.
Did you sign the birth certificate?
Yes, Your Honor.
Even though you had doubt?
I was in a state of mind where I was very shocked as to what I had just seen because I had never seen a child being born before.
Why are you signing birth certificates if you have doubt?
I was completely frazzled at the time. I didn't know what was going on.
And boom, the moment we've all been waiting for, the DNA results. Guess what?
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Jenkins, you are the father.
Okay, this whole thing kicks off with Mr. Moore saying he's Allie Luna's dad, but claims Ms. Scott won't let him in her life. But wait, you're not gonna believe what Ms. Scott drops on us next.
You came to court today to prove you are the biological father of 4-year-old Aliana. You and your current girlfriend claim the defendant has played on your emotions for 4 years. You are desperate to put the defendant's doubt to rest so you can finally be in your daughter's life.
Ms. Scott straight up calls Mr. Moore her escape plan. Oh, but the wild stuff about her other boyfriend is just around the corner.
We met on a dating site. He was kind of like an escape plan for something that I was going through. So I wanted to.
Escape plan?
I wanted to get away from that, so, you know, I kind of led him on. I wasn't trying to pursue nothing, you know, family or anything with this man. We met together. He asked me to move in with him. We maybe stayed together maybe a month, and I left.
Things just keep getting crazier. Ms. Scott admits she was in a whole other relationship while living with Mr. Moore. Just wait until they start breaking down when this baby was actually made.
Miss Scott, did you use protection?
No, it wasn't protected.
You all were only seeing one another?
Like, I was currently in a relationship when I met him originally.
So why would you do that?
He was my escape plan. He was my dummy, basically.
Oh, here's where it gets real. Mrs. Scott says she found out she was pregnant at a clinic in September 2013. Buckle up, because the timeline of who did what and when is about to get a whole lot messier.
I found out I was pregnant September 2013. I was going to the clinic for, you know, my yearly monthly women's exam. They came in and said, Miss Scott, you're pregnant. So I told my daughter's father that we were going to have a baby. I never, Mr. Moore, that we were going to have a baby together. I never told him that.
Your Honor, she called me and told me she was pregnant.
She did?
Yes,
never.
Get ready to have your brain scrambled. Judge Lake pulls out a conception calculator and figures out the baby was likely conceived between July 28 and August 3. But hold on, the DNA test is creeping up, and it's gonna be good.
So when was Aliana born?
April 25th.
April 25th. If I hit calculate, the window of conception is July 28th to August 3rd. And you claim you were in a relationship with Mr. Moore in July.
We had sex, Your Honor, in July and August.
Not from my remembrance, no.
Just when you think this case couldn't get any crazier, the court pulls out pictures of Mr. Moore's other kid and Allie Luna. She's like, nope, she looks like me and my man. The court's about to hit us with the ultimate truth bomb. Stay tuned.
Your son and Miss Scott's daughter was submitted to the court. And on the left side is Mr. Moore's other child with you, Ms. Williams.
Yes. They don't look alike. Baby looks like him. My daughter looks like me, and she resembles her dad.
She looks like me. She got the same pointed ears just like I do. She has the same forehead as it resembles mine.
And now the moment we've all been waiting for. The DNA test comes back, and guess what?
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Moore, you are the father.
Buckle up, because this case is already wild before it even starts. In Kidd vs. Rawlings, Mr. Kidd claims Ms. Rawlings convinced him he was her baby's father, then swapped him out for someone better. Meanwhile, Ms. Rawlings insists Mr. Kidd couldn't be the dad, since he told her he couldn't have kids. Things are about to get even messier.
You say Ms. Rawlings is a manipulative user who convinced you that you were the father of her son, Nathaniel, then changed her mind when someone better came along. You and your mother say Ms. Rawlings' mind games have wreaked emotional havoc on your family, and you are 100% positive are her son's father.
The testimonies begin, and it's a chaotic he said, she said showdown. Mr. Kidd says Ms. Rawlings told him he was the father, even writing him letters while he was away. Ms. Rawlings counters that she had other partners at the time. This story is just getting started.
When this first started off, she came to me and told me that he was mine. She was sending me letters when I was gone.
And so you were away when she found out she was pregnant?
I went away a month after she found out she was pregnant.
Did you tell him it was his child, Ms. Rawlings?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Rawlings admits she was juggling 2 relationships during conception, claiming she didn't know who the father was. She also says Mr. Kidd claimed he was infertile. The drama keeps building, and we're only scratching the surface.
We were in a serious relationship. I was actually at some point, once I left from being around Mr. Kidd, that I was actually staying with him.
So how often were you with Mr. Kidd, and how often were you with the other guy?
Pretty much going back and forth, because I was staying with him. I was leaving from being with Mr. Kidd to going with him and coming back to Mr. Kidd.
Here comes the science part, and it just makes things more confusing. Mr. Kidd's mom explains a rare blood condition that could complicate pregnancy, but not make it impossible. Despite this, Ms. Rawlings stands firm. Mr. Kidd isn't the father, and confusion reigns.
It's not a rare blood disease. I am ARH negative, and he is ARH negative. During the pregnancy, it could prevent her from having future children, or that child could pass away.
So, Mr. Kidd, did you ever tell Ms. Rawlings you didn't believe you could have children?
Yes, ma'am. I informed her of the situation because I typically, in a long-term relationship, I've never any kind of hiccup.
Ms. Jenkins arrives, convinced the baby is her grandson. She insists the baby looks just like Mr. Kidd, showing off pictures to prove her point. But everyone's still wondering, who's really the dad?
It was approximately the mid of August of 2016.
And at that time, were you aware that your son was in a relationship with Ms. Rawlings?
No.
We've never been in a relationship.
Wasn't just a sexual relationship?
No, ma'am. She just needed somewhere to stay. So I was just looking out for her, and it just became up. a sexual encounter.
It was an encounter?
More than one.
Accusations fly, with Ms. Rawlings accused of leading Mr. Kidd and his mom on. Meanwhile, the second potential dad also claims the baby looks like him. Are we doing paternity tests for everyone now?
Me being me as a mother, and I wasn't able to grow up with my father. Mr. Kidd can't see the moments that he's missing. At least his mom will be able to have them, and his family has some stories to tell.
But as you stand here at the defendant podium, you say you know Mr. Kidd is not your child's biological father.
Yes, ma'am.
We learned that Ms. Rawlings once handed over the baby to Ms. Jenkins, temporarily for help. Ms. Jenkins even had a handwritten custody note, but it only adds more confusion. This situation raises more questions than it answers.
I got a handwritten letter of custody.
Because of the fact that I had got a job that was paying $10 an hour, and I didn't have anybody to watch him. At the same time, trying to figure out who's going to watch my child and me not. That since she was there, that my child.
At that specific time, you did not have a job yet.
I know,
2 days
and
before that.
Dr. Gator explains that Mr. Kidd's infertility might not be as definite as he thought. Childhood infections could have affected his sperm, but not completely. Now everyone's on edge, just waiting for the DNA results.
So I think there's two separate issues here. There was an issue about Rh blood. That has to do with a mother and a baby, and if there's different blood types between the father of the baby, positive and negative. And so there are various childhood infections from mumps to STIs like gonorrhea and chlamydia. Those can cause inflammation in the testicles and makes it difficult for you to emit sperm.
The results are in and the tension is high.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Kidd, you are the father.
This whole thing kicks off with a bang. Judge Lake introduces Mr. Scott, who's here to dodge accusations from multiple women claiming he's their baby daddy. Mr. Scott owns up to 6 kids with 3 women, but says, no way, not number 7 with Ms. Crane. The courtroom's already buzzing, and you just know it's gonna get messier before it clears up.
Mr. Scott, you say you are appearing in court today to clear your name. You state many women, including the defendant, have dragged your reputation through the mud, claiming you are the father of their children. You admit to having 6 kids by 3 different women, but state that the defendant is not mother number 4 with child number 7.
Mr. Scott doubts Jaylynn is his, pointing to shady calls and Ms. Crane getting rides from random dudes. Ms. Crane calls him insecure, while the judge wonders if they were ever a real couple. Then, the twist. Mr. Scott was supposedly divorced, but Ms. Crane reveals he was still hanging with his ex-wife. The drama just keeps piling on.
We were together, her cell phone would ring, she'll walk out the room. She'll leave her cell phone with her best friend. Or like after we spend the night with each other, instead of me taking her home, she'll like walk home and I'll just peep at her and look at her, see what she's doing. And she has other dudes picking her up on her. And she admitted it to me about other dudes picking her up. I don't need to put his name out there.
That's insecurity,
Your
Honor. Insecurity, still a grown man.
Ms. Crane says she was 7 months pregnant when she discovered Mr. Scott was married, thanks to snooping on his phone. She even called his wife, who told her to get an abortion, and hung up. Mr. Scott admits he was with his ex, but says it's no big deal. Spoiler alert, things are about to get even wilder, with tattoos and more accusations.
Your Honor, I was 7 months pregnant. I didn't know where Marcel was. He used my phone one time. He deleted all his calls, so I went back on the internet, back to the research, called all the numbers he called, and found out he was married for 9 years.
That's true, I was married, but I've been divorced December 2009.
No, actually, he was at the woman's house, and he actually picked up the phone. So the lady was like, who is this calling from Marcel? I said, well, I'm his baby mama, his girlfriend.
Tattoos, lies, and chaos take center stage. Ms. Crane denies knowing about Mr. Scott's other kids, but he's got their names tattooed. He also claims Ms. Crane hid the baby's face during a run-in with his ex's family, which she says was to avoid harassment. And they accuse each other of cheating, like arguing over who ate the last cookie.
And he lied about all of his kids. I didn't know he had no kids.
She lied because I got tattoos all over my body. I got all my kids' names on my neck, on my back.
That don't mean nothing.
Everywhere.
I didn't ask him nothing about no tattoos.
She said it was your brother. But then it come to find it's another dude that's holding the baby. Well, I don't know if she still has it, but what showed me recently that she had it covered up, she has not 1, not 2, not 3, but 2.
No, Your Honor, I had 1, and that was my ex-boyfriend for 5 years.
Mr. Scott swears he didn't put those hickeys on Ms. Crane, and she claims it doesn't matter because they weren't together then. He says she kept him from doctor visits, while she says she had her reasons. The judge is clearly over it, but they still need to figure out who supported the baby.
And then while she's pregnant, she had hickeys on her neck. And I didn't give her them hickeys. You know what I mean? And when she was pregnant, she didn't even tell me she was pregnant. I said, well, let me take you to Kaiser Permanente Hospital. She told me to go to the Kaiser Permanente in Lancaster, and she's at the Kaiser Permanente in Palmdale. I take care of all my kids.
And so you're trying to take her to the medical appointment.
Yeah, she wouldn't let me take her.
And she telling you she's at one branch, you at the other branch.
They argue about who did what for baby Jaylyn. Ms. Crane says Mr. Scott is a part-time dad, showing up once a year. Mr. Scott blames her for keeping him away. The judge steps in like a referee, and just then, a surprise witness enters. With more baby drama,
I got home from work. My son was outside playing. He came. He was at the front gate. So he was like, Jaylyn, come here, Jaylyn, come here. So I'm like, who's calling my son? He gave my son $1. 5 minutes after talking to me and my son, he took it back.
What?
Exactly.
I'll be honest with you.
Scott.
I'll be honest with you. She got me confused with another dude because I never did that.
Oh my
This is the only time.
Miss Kaylon arrives, claiming Mr. Scott is the father of her baby too. Things get so heated that the judge slams her gavel to keep order. Ms. Crane and Miss Kaylon tag team against Mr. Scott, who's left trying to defend himself. The tension is about to explode. The DNA results are in.
He's my daughter's father too. My daughter's 4 months old.
So you claim you also have a child by him, and he's denying paternity?
He wants paternity test. I have it.
Yeah, she had no problem.
Nothing.
No, I communicate with her
It's
good. There's no problem with her.
When it comes to 3-year-old Jaylyn Crane, Mr. Scott, our father. Told you!
Your Honor, Miss Sutton is not telling you she done slept with my family members, husbands, and baby daddy. And I caught her with one of them. We have tried very hard to get along with this girl. And when I was staying with Miss Sutton, I came home and caught her in bed with one of them. Just recently, she just stopped fooling with one of my family members' husbands.
Also, too, when you meet a person, they tell on their own self what they're about. When I pulled over, we had sex on the road. Then when we got to my house...
Oh, wait a minute. You meant literally on the road.
Oh, no, not like that. Pulled over, we had sex on the road.
This whole thing starts wild and it doesn't slow down. Ms. Toure comes in swinging, calling Mr. Lacey an absentee dad and saying he's definitely the father of her son, Trevon. Get ready, because these two are about to take us on a very bumpy ride.
Ms. Toure, you are in court to prove to your ex-boyfriend, Mr. Lacey, that is the biological father of your adult son, Trevon Lacey. You state that the defendant has been an father full of excuses, and you want it all to end today in court with the truth.
The birth certificate has Mr. Lacey's name on it, but apparently it was typed in because he wasn't even there when Trevon was born. Ms. Toure admits she just gave the hospital his name. No big deal. And now he's the official dad on paper. Mr. Lacey is not buying it, though.
Your Honor, I could not have signed the birth certificate. I was not, I was incarcerated at the time, Trevon.
This birth certificate, child's name, Trevon Lacey's father's name, Larry Lacey, but it's typed in. Was he present at the birth?
He was not present, no.
You basically just gave them his name.
I gave him his name.
And they typed it in.
Yes.
Here's where things really heat up with a courtroom he said, she said moment. Mr. Lacey says he got court papers about child support when Trevon was a baby, but he swears nobody ever offered him a DNA test. Ms. Toure's like, nope, you had your chance and you didn't take it.
I say Trevon probably was about between 3 and 6 months years old. I received a court paper, State of Ohio Child Support Court. We did both appear at the Child Support Court. The judge, he looked at me, he said, that's your son, you have nothing to say.
They gave him an opportunity for a DNA.
No, they
if he
did
had
not, Your
any
Honor.
doubt that my son was not
No, they
his
did
child.
not, Your Honor.
Okay, this is where the money talk gets kind of nuts. Turns out Mr. Lacey owed $37,000 in child support. Yes, $1,000, but he's worked it down to about $5,800. But don't worry, things get even juicier when another potential dad gets mentioned.
You owe $37,200 and some odd dollars in child support, which you have
Knock you down to $5,000.
it's past due. You've paid all of that. So throughout these years, you've paid.
I've been paying off and on. You know, sometimes during them years I was unemployed. As soon as I find employment again, then, you know, my wages start being garnished.
But if you thought their backstory was going to be sweet, think again. Ms. Toure spills the tea about how she made the first move on Mr. Lacey because she thought he was charming and they got together fast. Oh, and then we get the hilarious pajama story. Buckle up for this one.
I met Miss Toure was on the city bus and she was on the city bus and she had oldest son to walk up to me and give me a piece of paper with a phone number on it. So when I looked at the phone number, I wondered who is this? So I turn around and I'm watching where the child goes. You know, Miss Toure, I looked at her and said, nice looking young lady. Maybe we can get together.
This pajama drama is straight out of a sitcom. Mr. Lacey says he came back from from out of town found another man at Ms. Touré's house wearing his pajamas, like top and bottom. Ms. Touré is laughing this off, saying the guy had his own clothes and they were just hanging out.
I had to go out of town and take care of some family business for a week. When I came back into town, I knock on the door. I see my pajamas. Ms. Touré has on the pajama top.
That is not true to me.
The gentleman has on the pajama bottom.
Your pajamas.
My pajamas. I didn't create no drama. I didn't fight. I didn't do anything. I turned around. I tell my cousin, I said, come on, let's go. So we left.
Trevon's got the spotlight now, and things get real. He starts by praising his mom for raising 3 kids alone, but he also admits it hurt not having a dad around. He says he made some bad choices as a kid and wishes Mr. Lacey had been there to guide him.
I want to start off by saying my mom, she was, an excellent mother. She raised 3 boys by herself, all at different ages. I believe I done turned out okay. I have Larry's absence in my life, it definitely affected me in a negative way. I started having sex at a young age. I just wish if I had a father there, he could have pointed me in the right direction.
This part is like a soap opera, only louder. Trevon pours his heart out, saying he wants closure and a chance to have a relationship with his dad. The DNA proves it. Mr. Lacey flips it, claiming Ms. Touré kept him away, while she claps back, saying he's just trying to dodge child support.
I feel like if you were there, it was a lot of, heartache and headaches that I could have avoided. As far as my children, which I believe are your grandchildren, they have a right to know who their grandfather is.
True.
So I want to let you know that. I'm just ready to get these results so we can move forward in our lives.
This part had everyone holding their breath or yelling at their screens. The DNA results are in, and guess what?
It has been determined by Mr. Lacey. You are the father.
Thank you, Your Honor. I told you. I told you.
Okay, this is the kind of courtroom drama that makes you grab popcorn and wonder how things got this messy. The case of Sutton v. Smith kicks off with Ms. Sutton saying her ex, Mr. Smith, was living a double life while pretending to be her man.
Ms. Sutton, you say you believed you were in an exclusive relationship with Mr. Smith until you got pregnant and discovered he was living a double life. You say the defendant has denied your daughter, Kaylee, and you are in court to prove he is your child's father.
Yes, Your Honor.
And this part of the case is like a soap opera written by Facebook posts. Ms. Sutton tells the court how she found out about Mr. Smith's other baby mama after she posted her ultrasound picture online. Apparently, the other woman slid into her messages like, hey girl, guess what? He's with me.
Him and his other baby mama were together when he was supposed to be with me. Like, he was staying with me, and then all of a sudden when I get pregnant, it's an issue. When I post my picture of my ultrasound when I got pregnant with my daughter on Facebook, I tagged him in it, and that's when she messaged me and she told me who she was. When she was pregnant with their daughter, he said he wasn't with her.
This is where the finger-pointing Olympics start. Mr. Smith denies ever being in a real relationship with Ms. Sutton, saying they just hooked up a couple of times.
First, I've met her through my cousin. We chilled, we kicked it off. First time we had a sexual encounter, we met at my auntie's house, we stayed. So after we had sex, I had went out of town to Cleveland, Ohio on a vacation. It was on the 4th of July, and she called my cousin's phone and something like, is DJ around you? And she gave me the phone, she was like, she said, oh, I'm pregnant by you. I'm like, you pregnant by who?
Meanwhile, Mr. Smith claims Ms. Sutton is posting photos of the baby with random dudes online, calling it a family photo. The judge tries to keep things calm, but good luck with that because things are about to get even louder.
Me and the baby, telling everybody, oh, look, this is his baby, he denied my baby, and all this, and then that thing, I look up, you got a picture with your baby and another dude beside each other. Hey, I'm finna come up there, you want me to come up there and pull up on you and see the baby? No, my mom said if you come up here, she don't want to have nothing to do with me and my baby, so you might as well stay there. Then she gonna say that, she tried to give me a free DNA test.
This part is heartbreaking, but also filled with awkward zingers. Ms. Sutton says she went through the pregnancy completely alone, with her mom stepping in as the baby daddy. Mr. Smith argues he wasn't allowed at the hospital because he didn't have an ID, which feels like the weakest excuse of the year.
No, my mother's was my baby's father my whole pregnancy.
And then when you went to the hospital, he didn't come?
No, I invited him twice.
What you told me not to come up here and come
at the hospital, you have to have ID. Here with you, if you don't want to do for Katie, then don't do for Katie, because my daughter's well taken care of. Been in school since she was 6 weeks old. She is well taken care of. Look at her.
And now, we hit the part where people start dragging each other's personal lives. Mr. Smith's mom, Ms. Colley, accuses Ms. Sutton of hooking up with half the family, saying she's been with their husbands, baby daddies, and boyfriends. Ms. Sutton fires back, saying that's not true, and even if it was, it's none of their business.
Your Honor, Miss Sutton is not telling you she done slept with my family members, husbands, and baby daddy. And I caught her with one of them. We have tried very hard to get along with this girl. And when I was staying with Miss Sutton, I came home and caught her in bed with one of them. Just recently, she just stopped fooling with one of my family members' husbands.
If you thought things couldn't get pettier, welcome to the money round. Mr. Smith admits Ms. Sutton gave him money while he was in jail, but says it doesn't mean mean he owes her anything. The judge rolls her eyes and basically calls him out for taking advantage of her generosity.
Every time I got incarcerated, yeah, man, we wasn't never in no boyfriend and girlfriend relationship. Yes, we did have a sexual intercourse with each other. So every time I done went to jail, yes, I done called LaQuay just because she put money on my book, money on my phone. When I get out, she feel like I'm obligated to stay with her. Cause come on, just because you don't spend that money, that's on you.
I just don't want you to start a sentence with every time I go to jail.
Get the tissues, or maybe earplugs, because Ms. Sutton lets it all out. She talks about how much it hurts to see Mr. Smith being a dad to his other kids while ignoring her daughter. She's crying, shouting, and saying she doesn't care about him, but just wants her baby to have a father.
The whole 3 years of her life has been me.
A child looks for their dad. They know their dad. They talk.
Knows him.
Does she call him dad?
Yes, but if he would want to be in her life, I wouldn't stop him because my daddy has been in my life since day one. My mother and father are still married. I have had a 2-parent household all my life, so I know how influential having a father in a girl's life is.
This is the part where Mr. Smith actually admits he was kind of a jerk. He confesses that he lied to Ms. Sutton, led her on, and took her money while he was in jail. He even admits he knew she was in love with him, but says he always had feelings for someone else.
I realized that, and I played a part in too, cause I was lying. You know what I'm saying? I was dating somebody else, and I was staying with somebody else. You know what I'm saying? Yes, we had sexual intercourse. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. She done caught feeling real deep for me, and she really want me to be with her. But like my heart was always somewhere else, and I ain't never want to try to have my cake and ice cream and eat it too.
Okay, this is the moment everyone's been waiting for. The DNA test results are in, and surprise, surprise.
It has been determined by this court. Smith, you are the father.
Can I see my baby?
This case is a total roller coaster from the start, and you won't believe how wild it gets. The episode kicks off with Serfozo Veers Miller, where Miss Serfozo says Mr. Miller is the dad of her daughter, Sinite, her so-called miracle, her party days, which sets the stage for all kinds of chaos. Meanwhile, Mr. Miller is over here like, no way, not me, and claims he has proof. Stick around because this is just the tip of the mess iceberg.
So how do you remember this going?
Okay, so now it's basically a game of who's telling the truth. Miss Serfozo swears their thing, doesn't let it slide though, reminding everyone that even one time could make him the dad. The room is so awkward you could cut the tension with a spoon, and you just know this DNA test is about to blow things wide open.
Oh, Mom.
Just when you thought it was wild enough, here comes Miss Dreyer like a tornado, throwing accusations left and right. She says she found out about the baby from her ex, who also had a thing with Miss Serfozo. Yeah, it's messy. Then, Miss Dreyer straight up calls Miss Serfozo a liar.
I was talking to my ex, who had ended up with Mr. Serfozo, and he says, well, I'm here with Michael's baby. He was with her for like 2 months.
Called you and said, I'm here with
Michael's baby.
Michael's baby.
Said, did you know he's got a baby that's about 6 months old?
But she struggled on her own. The audience claps as she says her miracle baby shouldn't have to pay for her mistakes. Just as you're wiping away a tear, you remember, DNA results are coming, and things are about to get real. Dad. Mr. Lennon claps back, calling her a promiscuous gold digger and saying she should check with the other guys she was seeing. Things get heated real quick as both sides start throwing shade at each other.
Mr. Lennon, you say plaintiff is nothing but a promiscuous gold digger and there is no way you're her son's biological father. You suggest she contact the multiple men she slept with during the window of conception and return to court with the real daddy.
Wow, this story got weird fast, like a soap opera, but with way more awkward details. Ms. McDaniel says Mr. Lennon wanted a baby because the 2 kids he already had weren't biologically his. Mr. Lennon says, nope, not true, and explains he met her on a dating site just to see what she was about. Oh, and they both agree they hooked up the first night, so romance clearly moved at lightning speed.
I want to first off start saying he shouldn't deny my baby when my baby looked just like him. So he was the one to plant to have me pregnant, Your Honor. He told me that he wanted to have a child which was biologically his because he have 2 that's not his, and he's the deadest because he signed a birth certificate.
No, Your Honor, that's not true.
The court hears how Mr. Lennon claims he was looking for love online, but somehow ended up pulling over for a roadside date the first time they met. Meanwhile, Ms. McDaniel says she was drawn to him because she wanted a boyfriend who could also be a father figure and a sugar daddy. Oh, and let's not forget the 15-year age gap, which makes this even messier.
We met online,
yes,
Your Honor.
We did meet online. It's a lot of sites out there, and it's a lot of good ones out there, and yes, there's a lot of bad ones out there. Also, too, when you meet a person, they tell on their own self what they're about. When I pulled over, we had sex on the rope. Then when we got to my house...
Oh, wait a minute. You meant literally on the road.
Oh, no, not like that. Pulled over, we had sex on the road.
Ms. McDaniel says she liked Mr. Lennon because he seemed mature and responsible, while he admits he noticed her, assets. The court pulls up her online profile, complete with photos that range from classy sundress vibes to full-on lingerie shots, and reads her bio, which might be the most extra thing ever written. Mr. Lennon swears he didn't know about the profile's tone. Ms. McDaniel is like, come on, dude, you knew what you were getting into.
That I thought he was a grown-up man who can step up to the plate.
And so, Mr. Lennon, what attracted you to Miss McDaniel?
Well,
My big booty and my cute smile.
Well, she was a person that had a heart.
So you saw this photo of her and you said, oh, I found a pretty girl. Oh, lingerie shot. These are the photos online.
Ms. McDaniel says Mr. Lennon was all in at first, saying he loved her and wanted to be with her, but she also admits she asked him for money when things got tough. Mr. Lennon says he didn't sign up to be a human ATM, especially after being burned in past relationships where he wasn't the dad. The back and forth keeps getting louder, with neither of them backing down.
At the first time, yes, I was falling for Maurice, but to the point that when I started asking Maurice for like help, he didn't want to help me.
What do you need help with?
Money.
I would ask Mr. Lennon for some money to get some food because I didn't want to go to the government for food stamps.
Did you have a job?
No, I didn't.
So you basically wanted a man to take care of you?
I basically wanted a father figure, so.
Mr. Lennon opens up about 2 times he thought he was a dad, only to find out through blood tests that he wasn't, which is why he's so skeptical now. Ms. McDaniel's sister takes the stand to say she believes Mr. Lennon is the father and claims he promised to take care of both the baby and her sister. Of course, Mr. Lennon denies all of this, saying he never made such promises.
I'm not denying.
Yes, you are denying him.
I told her about my past or what happened and how I was hurt 2 times off of a blood test.
So you've had paternity issues in the past,
yes,
paternity
Your Honor,
situation,
yes,
and you
Your
say on 2 different occasions the child turned out not to be yours?
That's his stupid
but
stuff.
But you signed the birth
certificate.
certificate.
No, Your Honor, I did not sign no birth certificate.
Ms. McDaniel fires back at the cousin's claims, saying she only ever left the house to grab a cigarette and that she stayed loyal to Mr. Lennon. Things heat up even more when the court questions her sister and cousin about who was where and when. Meanwhile, Mr. Lennon keeps insisting that this whole situation doesn't add up.
He goes to work every day about 4 o'clock in the morning. I live across the street, I smoke cigarettes, and I watch Miss McDaniels jump in and out of vehicles all while she was at our home and told the boy that she was pregnant. So my thing is this, if he's the baby father, the baby will get taken care of. But if it's not, then let Miss McDaniels go on about her business.
Ms. McDaniel says she told Mr. Lennon about the baby's birth, but he made excuses not to come, claiming he didn't have gas money. She's furious, calling him out for avoiding responsibility while still creeping on her Instagram posts about the baby. Mr. Lennon says he stayed away because he didn't want to risk more heartbreak if the baby turned out not to be his.
So now when you went to the hospital to give birth to, did you tell Mr. Lennon? Was he there?
He have an excuse that I don't have no gas to come up.
I thought you had a sugar daddy. I don't understand how. But by saying you said he don't have no gas money.
This what I'm trying to pinpoint is if he have a bank account, why didn't he have no gas money?
So you thought he's just making up excuses not to come to the hospital?
The DNA results reveal.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Lennon, you are not the father.
That's right.
Like I told you.
This case starts off wild, and it's like stepping into a soap opera you didn't know you needed. The episode kicks off with Thomas v. Hadley, and Judge Lake gets straight to business. Ms. Thomas claims Mr. Hadley is denying her 7-month-old son Jeremiah while juggling a love triangle. She's asking for a paternity test to settle things once and for all. And trust me, what happens next will have you wondering who's running the messiest household in town.
Ms. Thomas, you claim you're involved in a love triangle that has resulted in the defendant denying your 7-month-old son Jeremiah.
Yes.
You've petitioned the court for a paternity test to prove that he is the father so he can stop living a double life.
The drama takes a nosedive into chaos as Mr. Hadley says, "Not my baby, not my problem." He claims his relationship with Ms. Stallworth is falling apart because Ms. Thomas won't stop accusing him. But wait, he also swears he has proof that he's not the father, like some kind of DIY detective. You think the proof is solid? Oh no, this is about to go off the rails.
Mr. Hadley, you say your current relationship with Ms. Stallworth is in jeopardy because Ms. Thomas is convinced you are the father of her child. But you say you have hard evidence to prove that you are not biological father.
It gets weirder when Ms. Thomas shows the court a photo of Mr. Hadley holding her baby like a proud dad. She says it proves he's all in as a father, but Mr. Hadley's like, "Nope, she set me up while I was napping." The picture fuels a fiery back and forth that's basically a battle of who can tell the bigger fib. And just when you think this photo drama is done, the story takes another wild turn.
Ms. Thomas, you submitted a photo to the court.
Yes.
That's Mr. Hadley, Jeremiah?
Yes.
That's you, right, Mr.?
Yeah, but I didn't fall asleep like that.
Yes, he did. No, he was holding him. He's gonna wake up and not let
So
me
what
take
are
a
you
picture.
saying? She placed the baby there?
That's a lie.
And took the picture?
No, Your Honor.
You think this can't get more dramatic? Oh, it can. Ms. Thomas spills the tea about her labor, saying Mr. Hadley was there for all 15 hours, playing coach and holding her hand. Mr. Hadley, meanwhile, says he only showed up because he felt pressured by her family. Now you're wondering, was he a caring dad-to-be or just someone trying to avoid a lecture? Let's just say the truth here is murkier than a swamp.
He was there the whole time. He got picked up. He stayed for the whole 15-hour labor. He was there the whole time, coached me through my contractions, telling me I need to breathe, everything. There's a picture of me and him. He stayed there the rest of the day.
To be honest, I felt a little pressured.
He wasn't
to,
pressured. No one told him that.
Who was putting pressure on you?
Well, number one, her family member brought me to the hospital.
And now, we're bringing calendars into this mess, as if the drama wasn't already messy enough. Ms. Thomas pulls out her trusty planner, saying the dates match up perfectly for Mr. Hadley to be the dad. Mr. Hadley claps back, saying she hooked up with someone else around the same time. This timeline is looking messier than your school desk on a Friday, but what comes next really takes the cake.
I had sex on the 19th around 12 to 2 a.m. The doctor told me I can see my son around the 22nd, which does put it in the I would be pregnant.
And your doctor told you your conception date was the 22nd?
Yes.
So you believe from that calculation that he is your child's biological father?
Yes.
Oh, so you thought a DNA test would settle things. Not so fast. It was a home DNA test, and guess what? It came back inconclusive. Judge Lake straight up roasts them for trusting a test that tells you absolutely nothing. And let me tell you, the arguments only get juicier from here.
Well, we also had a home DNA test done, and the results were inconclusive.
So are you basing a conclusion off of something that's inconclusive?
Yes.
Did you bring any evidence of that test?
No, I did not.
Enter Ms. Stallworth, who jumps into the ring like a wrestler with a grudge. She's got her own mic drop moment, backing Mr. Hadley's claims that he's not Jeremiah's dad. By now, you're just grabbing popcorn because the love triangle isn't just messy, it's straight up tangled spaghetti.
Because she was sleeping with somebody else around the same time, and the test that came back inconclusive, gearing towards a relationship, but this is
There's no gearing towards a relationship when he's staying with me. He lives with me. This is the longest since I moved.
No. Wait a minute, you live with Miss Thomas?
He lives with me.
He does not.
He lives with me.
Ms. Stallworth delivers an ultimatum so dramatic it could be in a soap opera. If Mr. Hadley is the father, she's out. Meanwhile, Ms. Thomas drops another bomb, saying Mr. Hadley's been ping-ponging between her and Ms. Stallworth for ages. Oh, but the paternity results are coming, and they're about to flip this circus on its head.
If in fact it's determined that he is Miss Thomas's son's biological father.
No, Your Honor.
You won't.
I won't.
Relationship you're working towards is on the line. Because if he's the father of her child, you don't want to be in a relationship with him.
Mr. Hadley is the father of Miss Thomas's baby. Me and Mr. Hadley would just co-parent with our daughter. Nothing further.
Boom! The DNA results are in, and guess what?
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Hadley, you are not his father.
Oh my God.
All right, buckle up because this one's a roller coaster of what is even happening. Mr. Mason is back in court for round 2, and he's still trying to figure out if baby Ace is his. The judge reminds us that last time, he proved he wasn't the dad of Ms. Malone's first kid.
Mr. Mason, you previously appeared in court when you proved that the defendant's 1-year-old daughter was not your child. You are now here questioning the paternity of the defendant's 5-month-old son, Ace, which stated you are the father.
Here's where things get even weirder. Mr. Mason is out here doubting science like it's some random internet poll. He says there's no way you can figure out who a dad is before the baby's even born, especially with just a swab from the mom.
I'm here for the second time, Your Honor, because I feel that Ace is not my child. I feel like that it's impossible to get a DNA for a child that's unborn just from a swab of the mother. I guess that's the only way I'm still acting the way I am toward him.
This is where things really take a left turn. Mr. Mason decides to drag Ms. Malone's fiance, Mr. Haynes, into the drama. He's convinced Mr. Haynes is the real dad because Ms. Malone hands Ace to him and says, "Go to your daddy." Ms. Malone claps back, basically saying, well, someone had to step up since you didn't.
Every time I held Ace, it's like all he did was just cry, and there was just no connection.
That's what a baby does. They cry when they first born.
There was just no connection. Even when I look at Ace, I don't see me.
Now he think Mr. Haynes, my fiance, is the dad of Ace.
You thought it couldn't get wilder? Wrong. Mr. Mason tells the court Ms. Malone yanked his name off the birth certificate and put Mr. Haynes' name on instead. Ms. Malone says she did it because Mr. Mason wasn't acting like a dad. Ouch. This whole argument is like a soap opera with legal documents.
Because if that was the case, Your Honor, when I was in the hospital when she gave birth, she had put my name on the birth certificate. Removed my name off the birth certificate just to put Mr.
Reason
Haynes'
of that
name
being
on
is
the birth certificate.
She took your name off the birth certificate?
Yes, Your Honor. The
Ace's
same
birth
day after I left out of the hospital, after she had already put my name on the birth
Your
certificate.
Honor.
Grab some tissues because Ms. Malone goes full emotional here. She cries as she talks about how Mr. Mason keeps dragging up their messy past and ignoring Ace. She's like, dude, I admitted my mistakes. Why can't you just focus on being a dad? The judge tries to keep things moving, but you can feel the tension in the room.
And why does it upset you so much?
He's still dwelling on the past. I know what I did. I confessed up to that. I owned up to it. And he's still the past in. He just needs to own up, be a father to Ace, be in his life.
She has not lately gave me the chance at
Hold
all.
on, Chance. He never
She's
picked up
never
Ace
gave me the chance.
whenever he came
Whenever
over.
he came and
Whenever he
visit.
came.
Oh boy, now we're on to the cheating part of the story, and it's a doozy. Ms. Malone accuses Mr. Mason of stepping out on her with another woman while she was pregnant. He denies it, saying she's got it all wrong, and he was just talking to a friend, because yeah, that always ends well. The judge points out that neither of them seems to trust the other, which is like the understatement of the century.
Me and Miss Malone, we went our separate ways.
You did?
And yes,
Your Honor, because when we back,
and when
he
we went
cheated.
our separate ways,
After agreed that we was not going to dwell on the past, he still did it anyway. I'm
I
starting
didn't necessarily
to.
cheat.
What was it?
I didn't cheat. I didn't cheat at all.
He left for another woman.
I didn't leave her at all.
And here comes the science guy. The judge calls Dr. Baird, a DNA expert, to explain how prenatal testing works, because apparently Mr. Mason needs a biology lesson. Dr. Baird breaks it down super simply. They take a blood sample from the mom, find baby DNA in it, and compare it to the dad's DNA. Mr. Mason's whole "the test is fake" argument crumbles in about 10 seconds.
How a prenatal test is performed.
The non-invasive prenatal paternity test is performed using a blood sample from the pregnant mother. In her blood sample, there is DNA from fetus that she carried. We then take a look at the DNA from the fetal sample present to an alleged father, see whether or not he is or is not the biological father of that.
Okay, here we go, the moment we've all been waiting for.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Mason, you are the father.
Again.